The world I once lived in was destroyed. Everyone had to fight monsters to survive. I, too, spent my entire life doing just that, just fighting day in and day out to stay alive. And so the days passed. The months passed. Year after year. Even 10 years flew by in the blink of an eye. With just a single sword, I could cut down any monster. I felt no fear. A muscular monster looked down at the sword god, its eyes flashing a dangerous red. It spoke, saying, "Gift up the world you once lived in is already gone." The mastermind behind all of this. Seeing him struggling between life and death, it made an offer. What a waste of talent, become my sword. Hearing this, the sword god, seething with rage, gritted his teeth and spat, "Don't make me laugh." In a fit of fury, he bravely charged forward. The sword god leaped into the air while drawing his sword. The monster swung its arm in a wide arc but couldn't catch him. Instead, the sword god left a long gash on the back of its hand. It didn't expect this, its face twisting in an ugly grimace. The sword god was about to turn his head to assess the situation. But before he could act, it swung its fist at him. A powerful punch sent him flying in a beautiful arc. Not satisfied, the monster beat him down while verbally humiliating him. "No matter how desperately you struggle in my eyes, you are nothing but an insect." The sword god took the full force of the blow, feeling it deep in his gut as he coughed up blood on the spot. Yet with extraordinary willpower, he still managed to flip and land safely on his feet. As soon as he regained his balance, the sword god dashed towards the monster. With a single sword in hand, he advanced alone, determined to fight it to the death. The monster, in its Super Saiyan-like state, raised its hand as if looking at an ant. Then, quick as a flash, it swatted him away like a fly. The sword god, with his tenacious life force, resiliently stood up again. It didn't deliver the final blow, but coldly watched him struggle. The sword god suddenly noticed the pendant on the monster's chest. His deep blue eyes, like a sea of clouds, suddenly flashed with light. The monster saw him take a stance and raise his weapon. As if waiting for that very moment, the sword god suddenly made his move. He unexpectedly threw his sword like an arrow. The sword struck it square in the chest before flying off into the starry sky. The monster's weapon stopped just 1 millimeter away from him. Half of the pendant was sent flying, and a dazzling crack appeared on its chest. The monster's eyes bulged with hatred as it shrieked in a high-pitched tone, You bastard!" That last throw had completely drained the sword god's strength. The remaining part of the pendant continued to crack into tiny pieces that flew off. Facing the moment of its demise, the monster screamed in terror, "No, stop!" Although unwilling, the monster had no choice but to turn to dust. When it had completely vanished, he could finally relax. The exhausted sword god fell backward right in the middle of the battlefield. His cold jade-blue pupils gradually lost their focus. Lying amidst the endless smoke and fire, he gazed at the sky and sighed. What a magnificent sight. A young man walked under the warm sunlight. Beneath a head of messy, tangled hair were a pair of indifferent, world-weary brown eyes. He didn't know where he had wandered off to, but an alarm was blaring loudly. A sign on the fence read, "Namsan Gate C Rank, recommended party C Rank, minimum 3 people, civilians prohibited." An urgent announcement blared from a loudspeaker. "Please scan your hero registration number and personal identification code. Civilians who are not heroes, please do not enter. Yongsan District, Seoul." He walked up to the gate, ignoring the loudspeaker. Then he lowered his center of gravity into a ready stance. And with a boom, his figure vanished, leaving behind only a puff of smoke. The alarm wailed madly, along with a rapid announcement. "Warning, an unregistered hero has forcibly entered the gate." Dojun didn't give a damn and kept moving. He only stopped when he was surrounded by trees. As he took another step, wanting to go deeper, a voice called out, "Hey, young man." Dojun looked over reflexively. A group of people in uniform approached. A man with black hair asked, "Are you lost?" "I don't know what happened, but we're about to leave, so you should come with us." Dojun just stared at them without saying a word. A girl mumbled in a low voice, "Hey, look at his clothes." The guy with a buzz cut next to her also whispered, "Right, he doesn't look like a hero at all." They scanned Dojun from head to toe and sighed heavily. "I know the support staff wear all sorts of things these days, but that outfit... And what's with that backpack, good grief? Could he be a rookie support staff member abandoned by his hero party, but that can't be it?" Not wanting to hear their gossip, Dojun spoke up to explain, "I understand what you're all saying, but I just got here." The thoughtless young man said loudly, "See, I told you so, he was abandoned." The black-haired man, feigning understanding, gently advised, "I've seen many people like you. I get what you were thinking stepping into this gate, but don't be so naive." Thinking you can hunt inside a gate just from watching TV or browsing the internet is suicide. First get an official hero license, then pass the training and tests. Besides this, Namsan Gate is C rank, if you want to start try an F rank gate first. Dojun, with a calm and indifferent expression, said, "I know you mean well, but no thanks." The whole group didn't expect this kind of reaction and were completely stunned. Hearing this, the two young men couldn't help but yell out, "What's with this crazy bastard? I don't know! Bro, don't stop me this time!" The older man held out his arms to stop them. "Calm down." The man watched Dojun's retreating back and said, "Just let it go. If he's going to ignore such sincere advice, then let him experience it for himself. He'll learn that this gate is nothing like what you see on TV or the internet, but a cruel world." As soon as those prophetic words were spoken, Dojun encountered one. A monkey-faced, buffalo-horned monster looked at him with a disdainful sneer. Standing in the beast's shadow, he calmly took off his backpack and closed his eyes. The monkey-faced monster swung its arm to attack. Dojun leaned to the side to dodge. His eyes flashed, his pupils turning from brown to gold. 10 years. The weapon crashed into the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust and smoke. When the dust settled, it was utterly astonished. Dojun charged forward with his slender arm. With one punch in an instant, he tore a huge hole through it. The monster's head seemed to have evaporated from the world. The monkey-faced, buffalo-horned monster was left lying there just like that. Dojun looked up and couldn't help but remark, "Nothing has changed at all." Dojun stared intently at the blackened beast before him. A moment later, he reached out his hand. He picked up the monster's blade, then blankly stared at his own reflection in it. Through the blade, it was as if he hadn't yet woken from a dream. Next, Dojun pointed the blade towards the headless corpse. With a squelch, blood splattered everywhere. The main character focused on digging deep into its body, searching for something. A few minutes later, he pulled out a blood-stained stone that glittered pristinely. It was a low-grade mana stone. He couldn't help but sigh. Before, I wouldn't have even bothered to glance at something this trivial. Dojun unzipped his backpack. He rearranged the items inside before putting more stuff in. While he was busy, a rumbling sound echoed in his ears. It was the sound of footsteps from the unfortunate monster's kin. This time, 3 of them came at once. One was already in a stance, swinging its axe. The monster swung its axe powerfully, and he ducked to avoid it. He channeled his strength into the hand holding the mana stone. Then he suddenly threw it, much to the astonishment of the monsters. The mana stone blew its head off. The newly debuted monster made its exit from the stage just like that. The remaining 2 charged forward in unison. Dojun tossed his backpack to one side. You could tell the main character was about to perform his one-punch kill move. Meanwhile, that well-meaning party was also walking through the forest. The girl in the party said with some hesitation and worry, "It's that rude guy from before. What if he really dies?" The irritable young man snapped, "Wait, don't tell me you're worried about him." The experienced older man spoke reassuringly, "If he's an intruder by now, agents from the control center are probably on their way. This is the Namsan Gate, a C rank, so they'll dispatch elite agents of B rank or higher. As long as he doesn't go crazy and charge into a pack of monsters, he won't die, so don't worry." The bald guy said confidently, "You're right. That arrogant bastard must be shaking like a leaf right now, waiting for the agents to save him." The bald, scarred monster was trembling uncontrollably as it took a punch that caved its face right in. The one with the top knot took the opportunity to ambush from behind. He was too slow for Dojun. His blade only managed to slice through thin air. Seeing his prey vanish from sight, the top-knot guy couldn't help but feel wary. Dojun flash-stepped behind him, raising his leg high. Then he delivered a kick that caved his damn head and making him spew blood like a rain shower. And so the one-sided battle ended with one lying face up and the other face down. Dojun dragged the crude stone sword along the ground. He swung the sword powerfully, his cold eyes counting 3 more mana stones. After finishing up there, he went on to hunt a little more. Who knows how much time passed, but his backpack had gotten a little fatter. Dojun wandered around looking for prey. Feeling bored, the harvest wasn't much so far. He had 12 low-grade stones and 16 mid-low-grade ones. An agent from the center spotted him and immediately alerted his comrades this way. Hearing human voices, Dojun glanced over curiously. In an instant, 3 other agents also appeared at the scene. The brown-haired agent demanded in a stern voice, "We're from the Gate Control Center. Please present your hero registration ID. If you're not registered, you'll have to come with us to the Control Center." Dojun raised an eyebrow, saying with a hint of doubt, "Gate Control Center." The agent emphasized each word in a low voice. please comply with our instructions, while thinking to himself, what is it now? This is such a hassle. He looked at them, a glint in his eyes, suggesting he was ready to get physical. But in the end, he dismissed them with a couldn't-care-less attitude. Get lost, you're annoying. The brown-haired agent immediately gave the order cuff him, and the blonde agent pulled out his equipment, shouting, please cooperate. If you resist, we might be forced to use violence. As he spoke, his other hand swiftly grabbed Dojun's wrist. The blonde agent held up the pair of handcuffs, warning any injuries resulting from your resistance will be entirely your responsibility. It's best we settle this peacefully at the control center. Not waiting for his wrist to get some new jewelry, he grabbed the agent's hand in return. Feeling the strength of the grip on his wrist, the blonde agent's eyes widened in shock. Dojun looked at him and said seriously, stop bothering me now, get lost. Seeing this, the other agents raised their guard and drew their weapons. In the blink of an eye, the weapons revealed their true forms. He glanced at their equipment, thinking indifferently, a level 4 magic sealing device, that might still work on orcs. Dojun applied a little more pressure, twisting the blonde agent's joint. At the same time, he spoke with special emphasis, this is your final warning. If you don't want to get hurt, then turn back. The moment he finished speaking, pressure came at him head-on. The agents attacked, and Dojun casually parried their blows. The agent on the right threw a punch, and he dodged it with a slight tilt of his neck. At the same time, as quick as the wind, he raised his thigh and kneed the other agent squarely in the side. An excellent knee strike made the agent on the right lose his balance. Then he followed up with a kick that sent the man flying. The agent on the left saw this and was so shocked he froze on the spot. He stared at him as if he were a terrorist. Dojun turned to look at the other agent and gave a nod. Right after that, his figure blurred as if it were dissolving into thin air. The agent, seeing no one, thought in terror he disappeared. He suddenly appeared right beside him and landed a solid punch. The agent took the full brunt of the damage, clutching his stomach and coughing violently. He called out, hey, and the agent, clutching his body, stammered awkwardly. Dojun wondered, if I register as a hero, I won't have any more trouble, right? The agent replied hesitantly, that's right. As long as you don't commit any crimes inside a gate, there's no reason to dispatch agents. He asked again what about the rifts, and hearing that the agent suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. They are passages to other worlds where bizarre monsters appear, opening up all across the globe. The byproducts obtained from hunting monsters there are used as a new source of energy. For that reason, places where the government has complete control over the passages and contains the monsters are called gates. As for the spaces that haven't been converted into gates yet, those are called rifts. After hearing the explanation, he basically summarized, so that means no matter which gate I go to, you people will come sniffing around for me, won't you? The reason would be unauthorized entry or something like that. Seeing Dojun's sour expression, the agent hastily explained, yes, that's right. If an unregistered hero enters a gate without authorization, the control center receives a notification and any nearby agents on standby will be dispatched. Rifts aren't as accessible as gates, you know, and the Hero Association won't turn a blind eye either. He didn't give a damn about that complicated stuff and said arrogantly, oh yeah, and so what? The agent left speechless, couldn't help but regret it internally. This guy is a complete lunatic, damn it. I should have reported back to headquarters from the very beginning. Just as he finished his silent cursing, Dojun grabbed the agent's face and swung his arm. He casually tossed the agent away like he was playing handball. Dojun looked at the agent, sizing him up internally, just a small fry. The agent, half kneeling and clutching his wounds, yelled, you bastard. I'll definitely kill you next time, but Dojun couldn't care less and continued on his way. The moment the jewel on that monster's chest shattered, the monster roared in desperation. No, stop it right now. Hearing its voice, which was almost a scream, I began to lose consciousness, feeling as if I were being pulled into something. Death, I must be dying. With that mindset, the sword god closed his eyes in acceptance. After waiting for a while with no one coming to take him away, he opened his eyes in confusion. He never expected to find himself hanging upside down amidst the blue clouds. Before him was an unfamiliar young man, and the sword god asked, who are you? The young, timid-looking Dojun introduced himself. My name is Seo Dojun, and I am on the brink of death. If you accept my request, I will disappear quietly. The moment he finished, the sword god said without a shred of hesitation, I refuse. Hearing that, Dojun became flustered, not knowing what to do. The sword god offered his reason, I no longer have any lingering attachments to this life. After 10 years of fighting to the death, I was betrayed by the comrades I trusted. My country was destroyed. My friends are dead, and so is my family. No matter how hard I struggle to live on, in the end, there's nothing left, is there? And you're the same, aren't you? That sentence made Dojun freeze completely. Dojun couldn't help but try to persuade him, even if my life is the same. I don't want my grandmother and Yun to have to live like that too. The sword god finally relented, clearing his throat and asking, "So what? Just keep it brief, what do you want?" Not expecting him to change his mind so quickly, Dojun's face lit up with joy. He said hurriedly, "What I wish for is Gasan Digital Complex, Jumchin District, Seoul. Now known as the Hero Complex, the trade of byproducts from Gates is even more bustling than the IT companies." After hunting enough mana stones, Dojun strolled through the streets with his backpack on. After walking for a bit, he came across a purchasing shop and thought to himself, maybe this is the place. The sleazy-looking receptionist saw a customer come in and said, "Welcome." Dojun walked in and said, "I'd like to sell some mana stones." Hearing this, the cashier shot up and boasted, "You've come to the right place. We offer the best purchase prices in Seoul, no, in all of Korea." Hearing that, he dumped the mana stones onto the table. Seeing the pile of blood-stained stones, the cashier couldn't help but complain seriously, "You should at least wipe the blood off before bringing these in." Outwardly, he said amicably, "You've got quite a few mana stones there. Please wait a moment while I appraise them. Would you like some coffee while you wait?" To which he replied, "Anything is fine." So he just sat and waited for the guy at the counter to examine the stones. The clerk counted while rapidly tapping on his calculator, saying 12 low-grade mana stones, 16 mid-low grade, and 5 high-low grade. The commission is 40% of the purchase price. You already knew that, right? So that comes to... The total amount you'll receive is 5.46 million won. Hearing the ridiculous commission fee, Dojun spoke up, "Hold on. I'm the one doing the hunting, and you guys just buy them and take a 40% commission." The cashier was caught off guard and just stared, Then he immediately changed his tune and sneered, "Sir, it seems you don't understand how things work here. We normally take 45%, I'm giving you a discount. If you don't want to sell, then take them home. I guarantee you won't find a better price anywhere else." Dojun gathered his items and said casually, "Then I'll be taking them back." The guy at the counter immediately pressed his hand down on his. Then, practically begging for a punch, he held out his other hand to shake him down. "Hey, sir, you have to pay the appraisal fee. The coffee wasn't free either. That'll be 300,000 won for the appraisal and 10,000 won for the coffee. Since we had to use an expensive towel to wipe up the blood and now it can't be used again, please pay a total of 350,000 won, including the cost of the towel." He yanked his hand back and challenged indifferently, "I don't have any money for you people. If you want it, just try and take it." The clerk gave a hideous laugh, threatening him like a dog on its home turf. "You have to pay, you hear me? We're backed by a few C-rank heroes, you son of a bitch." As soon as he finished speaking, several large men emerged from the emergency exit. Scarface looked at the clerk and raised his voice. "What's going on? Why did you call me out? Is someone causing trouble again?" Dojun shifted his gaze from the clerk to the large men. Scarface's mouth hung slightly open as he looked down at him, trying to apply pressure. The clerk's face turned pale, and he trembled uncontrollably while hiding behind the counter. Scarface screamed as he was sent flying toward the reception desk. The C-rank hero just lay there completely knocked out, unable to get back up. His two accomplices also lay on his left and right sides in perfect symmetry. Dojun dusted off his hands and then walked rhythmically to the counter. He stood before the receptionist and stated the price. "My commission for this is 1%. From now on, let's have smooth transactions. I'll be back next time." A short while later, he returned home and threw a thick stack of cash onto the table. His grandmother and Yun were stunned into silence. His grandmother picked up the stack of money, estimating its worth, and asked hesitantly, Dojun, what is all this money?" He awkwardly scratched his head, trying to come up with an excuse. "Oh, it's nothing. I once lent money to a friend to start a business, and now his business is very successful." His grandmother questioned him suspiciously, Do you really have a friend like that?" Dojun had no choice but to say vaguely, "Do you remember the places where I grew up, Grandma? He was a friend I used to play with back then." His grandmother clutched the money in her hand, her old voice saying, "Of course I remember." The innocent Yun chirped, "Brother, does this mean our family is rich now?" Dojun smiled gently, stroking his sister's head as he said from now on. The little girl was overjoyed and ran around the room shouting, "Our family is rich, we're going to be rich." Dojun watched her, his eyes filled with deep thought. Memories of the other Dojun came to his mind of his grandmother and Yun. Let them live in the safest place possible, and then he disappeared before I could answer. He looked in the mirror. Dojun's face now bore a slight resemblance to the sword god. When I woke up, I had become Seo Dojun. The safest house in Korea currently costs 110 billion won. I have no obligation to fulfill that one-sided promise, but as soon as my power returns, that amount of money will be nothing. The rifts, the dimensional gates, the monsters, everything here is weaker than in my old world, the world that was destroyed. To me, who was once the sword god, this place is like a child's game, but not even 10% of my power has returned yet. As he was pondering, the doorbell rang, followed by a voice calling, "Seo Dojun, are you in there?" He stood up proactively and told his grandmother, "I'll go see you stay inside the house, okay?" With that, he went to open the door. As soon as he opened the door, he saw a brunette and a blondie waiting for him. The big brunette smirked. "Seo Dojun debts should be paid on time, shouldn't they?" The blondie added, "Do you even know how much you still have to pay? It's a whopping 48 million won." He knew about this from his memories and let out a sigh. These are the loan sharks the real Seo Dojun borrowed money from before he died. The 5 million won for Grandma's hospital bills had been inflated nearly 10 times in a short period. The brunette's eyes widened as he blurted out, "You just made money from a gate, didn't you?" The blondie opened his mouth to demand, "Hand it all over. We're just collecting according to the contract. So don't you feel like you're being wronged?" The moment he finished speaking, the brunette took a fist to the cheek. He flew backward and slammed into the wall. The blondie with his slicked-back hair looked over at the brunette and cried out in shock, "What the—" Without giving the blondie time to think, Dojun cracked his knuckles. "The amount I've already paid back is over 9 million won. If anything, I'm the one who should be getting paid back." The blondie was scared witless and forced a friendly smile, stammering, Are you really Seo Dojun?" Dojun raised his fist, his eyes deadly, as he said, "Tell your boss I'll be paying him a personal visit very soon." Then he let them have it. The sound of his fists echoed loudly. A while later, he and his sister went to a shopping mall to hang out. The two of them went into a stuffed animal store. Looking at all the cute stuffed animals, the little girl asked expectantly, Can I really buy one? Am I allowed to buy this doll?" Dojun smiled kindly and said, "We've already bought our things, now you can choose whatever you want." When I shared memories with Seo Dojun, my once barren emotions began to change. Right now it's just compassion, but Seo Dojun had always treated Yunyong, his half-sister from the same mother, with kindness. At the very least, I will protect that part of his heart. After fiddling with it for a while, the little girl still asked very timidly, "Brother, can I choose this one?" He saw the skinny stuffed bunny in Yunyong's hands. He immediately grabbed the fat teddy bear that the little girl had liked earlier. Then he held it up and said, "I told you to just pick whatever you like." Yunyong beamed, scratching her head sheepishly. Afterward, the two of them stopped by a restaurant for a meal. The two of them were enjoying their delicious meal. Someone called out, "Is that Seo Dojun? Is it really you?" He turned to see who it was. A plump girl with two burly bodyguards came right into view. She smirked condescendingly and asked, "You criticize others for their clothes, but look at you. You're not any better. Who's the little brat next to you? Causing trouble just like your mother." As soon as those words were spoken, the atmosphere grew tense. Only Yunyong had no idea what was going on, wondering, who is this lady? Dojun remained silent, not bothering to react to her. However, he wanted peace, but trouble just wouldn't leave him alone. Seeing that she couldn't get a rise out of the older one, she turned her attention to the younger one. She nosily asked, "What's your name?" The little girl replied politely, Yunyong. With nothing better to do, she taunted snidely, "Are you from the Juian family? Look at the way you're dressed. You're just as pitiful as your mother, aren't you? What's wrong? Cat got your tongue, can't you answer?" This bitch was clearly dissatisfied that he hadn't reacted to her provocations. So she once again aimed her spear at the little girl. "Hey, kid, do you know what the word whore means?" Knowing what she was about to spew, Dojun cut her off coldly. "You're as ugly as an orc." Hearing the insult, she was so shocked she went numb. The sword god couldn't stand this woman any longer. His contempt was plain to see. Seo Dojun was born out of wedlock and lived in poverty at the age of 7. After his mother passed away, he was finally taken in by his biological father. He had to endure over 10 years of discrimination and contempt and was completely abandoned after his stepmother gave birth to a son. Then he was kicked out onto the street again and had to live with his maternal grandmother and a half-sibling he had never met before. Seo Dojun, what was your heart made of to endure all of that? But now things will be different. The sword god stood up and looked down at her, scolding, "We lived together for 22 years, and yet I still find you disgusting. From your face to your rotten personality, even your hopeless pig brain. You're jealous of girls who are prettier and better than you while you're always living with an inferiority complex. You're not even as good as this little girl who at least knows how to think about her brother's finances." After chewing her out, he looked down on her as if he were a god. The stepsister's eyes rolled back in fury, and the two bodyguards looked on in terror. "What did you say?" Just as a fight was about to break out, a lady approached Dojun. "It's been a long time." The girl immediately ran to her like a child who had been wronged mom. Mom, do you know what that bastard said to me? He told me I was. The woman didn't want to hear it and snapped, that's enough. Get out of the way. What kind of uneducated behavior is this? So, Dojun, are you all right no matter how busy you are? You should still come home from time to time, the sword god cursed inwardly hypocrite. You were the one who tormented Seo Dojun the most for 12 years. The woman continued her concerned act. Your father is also very worried about you, he remarked. How disgusting. We're not in the kind of relationship where we can ask after each other, are we? Get out of my sight. She couldn't keep up the act, her face turning colder than an ice cellar. The stepsister turned and left in a huff, her eyes wide as she followed her mother. The woman was bewildered, repeatedly asking herself, is this really the Seo Dojun? I know the kid who would just bow his head and endure it even if I slapped him for no reason. The stepsister was also spooked and hurriedly grabbed her bag to run after Hiju. Mom, wait for me. That mother and child duo just ruined this pleasant meal. He said in a serious tone. Let's go, Yunyong, the little girl replied sadly. Okay. The sword god looked into the distance, thinking to himself, Seo Dojun, the man who always silently endured mistreatment, was no more. She had better realize that the sooner the better. The mother and daughter's car sped down the highway. The stepsister, regaining her courage, whined, Mom, why did we just leave like that? We should have beaten that bastard to death. Do you know what he said to me? That bastard, he told me. Hiju, after powdering her face, made a call. Director Lee. The other party answered, yes, ma'am. She coldly demanded, why is that Dojun still alive? Director Lee rubbed his bald head and reported truthfully. According to the report, Kang Chul-woo left Dojun inside the rift. That man, he should be dead by now. Hiju couldn't control her impulse and screamed like a madwoman. Exactly. So why is he still alive? Director Lee quickly said, I'm sorry, I will look into it again. The stepsister, her face pale and voice trembling, asked, Dead Mom, what did you just say? Hiju didn't pay her any mind, staring blankly into space. Seeing her mother's silence, she grew more frantic. Mom, what do you mean by that? What have you been doing? Don't tell me. You tried to kill Dojun. Without even turning her head, Hiju asked indifferently, do you still have feelings for Dojun? Hitting a nerve, she hurriedly defended herself. No, it's not like that if Grandpa or Dad finds out about this. Hiju quickly clamped a hand over her mouth. Leaning in close to her daughter's face, she said with a ruthless expression, Leave this to me. You keep your mouth shut. The terrified daughter didn't dare to utter a single sound. Hiju seethed with rage, thinking to herself, you dare defy me, you goddamn son of a bitch. No matter what, I will make you disappear from this world. 10 years ago, spatial rifts suddenly appeared. From them, hordes of monsters poured out like a flood and humanity was massacred. The world quickly plunged into chaos. But then heroes emerged, and it was they who pulled the world back from the brink of destruction. At the same time, a strange substance was extracted from the corpses of monsters, mana stones. Mana stones quickly replaced all old energy sources, and all nations rushed to convert the rifts into gates. Now the entire global industry revolves around these gates and heroes. To put it bluntly, if you want to make money in this world, you have to become a hero. He stood before the small office and muttered, Here it is, the headquarters of the HCS Corporation, Yongdongpo. Dojun casually walked forward. Then with a click, he opened the door and stepped inside. Chang Seob was taking a drag from a cigarette. A blonde and a brunette stood on either side behind him as he shouted, Who the hell are you? You have the guts to show up here after beating the crap out of my guys. Dojun looked at him for a moment, then said, The more I think about it, I'm the one who got the short end of the stick. Chang Seob yelled the short end. What the hell are you talking about? He said what he thought. I believe I deserve compensation for the mental, physical, and financial damages that you all have caused. Hearing this, Chang Seob's mind raced. The meek little kid from back then has really changed, seeing how he took care of my boys. He must have awakened inside a gate. He leaned in close to intimidate him. Looks like you found some backing. Let me tell you what happened to all the other pieces of trash who bragged about awakening. As soon as he finished speaking, his crew came out in force. Every single one of them looked like a criminal sneering down at him. Changjob grabbed his jacket to lecture him. Those guys were proud too, but after awakening, they ended up as nothing but worthless D ranks. Listen up. I've got a whole bunch of D ranks under me, and they wouldn't even let you get a word in. It was clear he had no intention of talking things out properly. To keep him from leaving, he called out, Sit down. I'm not finished yet. The underling with glasses lunged forward agitatedly and yelled, What, you little punk, you dare to be rude to me? Dojun calmly plucked off the man's glasses. He tossed them aside and casually threw a punch right into his face. The underling collapsed onto the floor, leaving everyone stunned. Next, as he beat up each one of them, he said, "You're not just loan sharks, are you? I also know about you forging documents. To make money, I need a hero ID." After 3 guys went down, the next one finally had a chance to strike, but he missed completely. And so he took a hit to the head and was knocked out cold. The Dojun of this moment was like a demon, his eyes terrifying. He returned to his calm demeanor and said almost like an order, "Make me a clean one with no loose ends. The deadline is tomorrow morning." Unable to believe what they were seeing, the whole group broke out in a cold sweat. Chang Xiaob was so overwhelmed his brain short-circuited. This power, he's not a D rank or a C rank, no, he might even be a B rank. Dojun grew tired of waiting and asked no answer. Chang Xiaob quickly shouted, "Okay, I'll do it, I'll take care of everything." Just when he thought the ordeal was over, he grabbed his shoulder. "There's one more thing. Did Hong Hiju tell you guys to kill me?" Hearing the question, her image unconsciously appeared in his mind. But he didn't give him time, squeezing harder, still not talking. The intense pressure on his collarbone made him scream in pain. Chang Xiaob quickly cried out it was Hong Hiju, it was her. "She said she hoped you would drown in debt and then kill yourself, that's what she told me. Let go, please, let go. Please let go." Having gotten his answer, Dojun released him, muttering, "Suicide, huh? So that's why she trapped me in the gate." Hearing this, Chang Xiaob reflexively tried to clear his name, "Trapped you in the gate. I don't know anything about that really, I swear. If you died, I wouldn't get a single penny, so why would I put you in there? I'm telling the truth." Seeing that he looked like he was about to wet his pants, he didn't doubt him. With a thoughtful expression, he pondered for a moment, his lips moving Kang Chul-Wu. "He's the one who pushed me into the gate. Bring me all the information you have on him by tomorrow morning." Chang Xiaob's voice trembled, yes. Dojun left the office to the collective sigh of relief from the entire gang. The sword god looked up at the clear blue sky. He unconsciously thought of Dojun. "Please let Grandma and Unyong live in the safest place possible. Request confirmed. Is that all you wish for? Very well, I shall help you." The next morning, he held a brand new ID card in his hand. He went to the management center's gate and scanned it. A cold mechanical voice announced hero registration card verified. Your level is below the recommended minimum. Please be cautious and think carefully before entering. Dojun looked at the card and pouted that bastard at the company. He should have just raised my rank to A. He walked in anyway, amidst the scanner's warnings. Your level is below the recommended minimum. Your level is below the recommended min. Bamseum Gate, B rank, D-scale tunnel type terrain, recommended A rank entry, not permitted unless in a party of 2 or more. It's a B rank gate, but only D-scale, so it's quite difficult to solo. But because of its tunnel structure, it only allows single entry, so unless you're at least an A rank clearing, it is nearly impossible. If you're really unlucky, you'll have to fight hundreds of monsters alone in a pitch-black tunnel. Before him was a giant snake with beautiful scales filling the air with a deadly atmosphere. Dojun was more than pleased, putting on his gauntlets and saying enthusiastically, "This is great." The snake shot out its hard tongue drenched in venom. Dojun ignored it completely and picked up a monostone. Seeing its kin killed right before its eyes, the golden snake hissed in fury. After finishing one off, Dojun looked back and narrated to himself, "Black Fang serpent of venomous snake species. Just a scratch is enough to paralyze the body." He leaped high into the air and then landed forcefully. The balls of his feet spun like a top. He flickered in and out of sight, leaving several scratches from its head to its tail. At the very end, he even clawed right through its body. After finishing this one, his gauntlets were also drenched in snake venom. Looking at the level of corrosion, he casually estimated it's worth about 300,000 won. The sound of hissing came again, and Dojun instinctively looked over. This time they brought their whole clan to gang up on him. He once again got up close and personal with these venomous snakes. The more he fought, the more ferocious he became, with blood splattering everywhere. The venom spitting from those snakes was like a downpour. A moment later, Dojun was the only one left standing in the tunnel. He reached in to search for loot, then wondered no mana stone. There really isn't one. He thought to himself, if it's like my previous world, then the mana stone drop rate from a Black Fang serpent is less than 3%. Looks like I'll have to hunt a few hundred more. Following the tunnel led him to a lush green forest. He noticed several skeletons nearby filled with a deathly aura. Then following the gaze of a skull's eye sockets, he wondered, is that the boss? He saw a snake 3 to 4 times larger than the ones he had encountered before. He dropped his backpack and muttered, "I didn't even know the way, but I ran into it here. How convenient." Then he leaped up for a punch. "I need to end this quickly and go back." However, this time he was repelled and his wrist throbbed with pain. Seeing a large handprint imprinted on the snake's body, he thought in astonishment the attack was ineffective. Before Dojun could think of a countermeasure, its tail slithered closer. Then, with a single whip, he was sent flying into a wall. That tail whip was incredibly stunning. Dojun sat down for a moment to recover. Only when the boss snake menacingly approached did he manage to get back up. Then he jumped to one side, narrowly escaping death. Right after dodging, he pushed off hard from the ground with the balls of his feet and leaped at high speed towards the boss snake. He practically flew towards it, throwing a punch that cracked a part of its scales. From the look in his eyes, it seemed he was now taking it seriously. Facing an enemy with superior abilities, he couldn't help but think, just as expected, it's completely different from the other snakes. Its skin is so tough, my punches don't do a thing. What should I do now? If only I had my old strength back, something like this would be nothing. In the middle of his predicament, a faint glint of light caught his eye. Dojun looked over and saw an old sword. After hesitating for a second, he resigned himself to it. He then pulled out the sword and muttered, "It's old, but I have no other choice now. No matter how dull the blade, what matters is who wields it. This sword. Lend me your strength for a moment." To dodge the snake's jaws, he used all his strength to jump up. At the same time, he didn't forget to armor the hand holding the sword. His pupils narrowed. He spoke with deadly determination to fall by my hand. "Consider it your honor, you damn snake." His hand gripped the hilt of the sword tightly. The snake boss let out a piercing hiss, opened its maw, and lunged its head forward. The sword god focused his spirit to the point where his pupils vanished. Then, with a single slash, he shattered the boss's head. But that sword shattered as well. Dojun held his pose, waiting. His lips pressed together slightly. Then he let out a sigh of relief and muttered, "If I hadn't been able to take it down with that blow, I would have been a goner." He stared intently at his new spoils. Then snake venom filled the sky. Dojun obtained one new material for making a weapon and assessed it. It's a bit short for a long sword, but it'll be usable after a bit of sharpening. Anyway, I still earned more than from the gate in Namsan. What a relief. When he left the place, it was late at night. Dojun remarked, "I can't believe a B-rank gate took that much time. Restoring my strength is definitely the top priority right now. I just hope my old comrades don't see me in this pathetic state." The next morning, at the shop he had visited before, a hunter brought his spoils and placed them on the counter. The clerk calculated for a moment, then said, "You've gathered quite a lot of mana stones. The commission is still 40% as usual." Hearing that the hunter was a little dissatisfied and tried to haggle, "What 40% is way too expensive. I'm a regular customer. Can't you give me a little discount?" The clerk counted the money while rambling, "Hey, you know, our place has the cheapest commission on the market. The gate center's basic processing fee alone is 5%, and we don't leave any transaction records so you don't have to pay taxes. When you think about it, this kind of transaction is more beneficial for you, isn't it?" The hunter saw his point and pouted while counting the money. "Well, you're right about that. Oh, by the way, what happened to your face?" Hearing this, the cleric shrugged helplessly. "Don't ask some lunatic barged in and beat our guards to a pulp, and I got a good thrashing, too." The hunter put his money away and went on a rant. "That's why I always say you can't rely on those C-rank guards. You have to look at their skills. Not just their rank is just something the bureaucrats came up with for easy management. Real strength is a whole different story. How can a kid who just got his license and stands guard at a door compare to a hero who risks his life hunting monsters every day?" The clerk thought to himself. "All right, if you're done, just go. You talk too much." The hunter winked and chuckled. "We've known each other for a while now. If you need anything, just give me a call." With that, he headed for the exit just as our main character arrived. The moment he saw that devil's face appear, the clerk instinctively recoiled in fear. He pointed a finger straight at him and shouted in a high voice, "It's him, the one who did this to me." The other hunter turned back and asked in disbelief, This guy, he's tall and quite good-looking, and he caused trouble here. Hey, are you the one who caused a ruckus here, calling yourself a hero and hitting an innocent person? Heroes aren't allowed to touch civilians." Seeing this, the clerk gloated internally. "The guy you're picking a fight with is a 7-year veteran hero. He's well-connected, knows a ton of high and low-rank heroes mess with him, and you're dead." Dojun glanced back and retorted, "Worry about yourself before you go lecturing others." These words added even more fuel to the fire. The clerk grew more excited. "Dojun not afraid of anyone?" continued, "or are you planning to stand up and get revenge for them?" For a moment, the hunter's gut churned with anger and he clenched his fist. You want to die?" "Oh crap, the number one cause of death for heroes isn't monsters, but conflicts with other heroes." His 7 years of experience and intuition screamed, "Run." "See you around, I'm busy, so I'll be taking my leave." Seeing his backup just walk away, the clerk was completely deflated. Dojun questioned him. "You don't seem to like me, do you?" The clerk's face went pale with fear. Without waiting for an answer, he tossed over a backpack full of mana stones. Then he said flatly, "Calculate it." Seeing the glittering stones inside, he felt immense pressure. What is this high-grade mana stones? Who the hell is this guy? The cashier couldn't resist the temptation and reached out to use the calculator. Then he shouted in astonishment, "The total is 150 million won." Dojun heard this and was inwardly dissatisfied. "I grinded all day and only got 150 million outwardly," he calmly demanded handed over 150 million. The clerk quickly blurted out, "No, we still have to deduct the commission." Seeing that dagger-like glare, he thought, did I say something wrong? Luckily, he remembered the deal, sighed in relief, and said, "That's right, 1% commission, so that's 148.5 million left. Bring it out quickly." The clerk cursed in his head. "What, the commission is 40%? Are you deaf out loud?" He only dared to say, well, transactions over 100 million require approval from a superior. Dojun looked at him and ordered, "Then go get the approval right now." The clerk made a call and spoke softly. "Yes, boss, here's what happened." Seeing the other side had picked up, Dojun snatched the phone. He spoke directly to the person on the other end. "Did you hear me? Clearly tell him to transfer the money to me." The shop owner said politely, "I understand, please give the phone back to my employee." Without waiting to hear the rest, Dojun threw the phone against the wall. "Your superior said he understands, bring out the money." The clerk didn't dare say another word and immediately complied. Yes, sir." He left with several full bags of money. "Let's make our next transaction more civilized, shall we?" the clerk cried internally, since when is a civilized transaction only beneficial to one party? 10 minutes later, the shop owner finally arrived at the store. He asked worriedly, "Hello, why didn't you pick up? What was that call about?" The clerk, completely exhausted and stressed out, said, "Boss, I quit. I can't do this anymore." Seeing the phone embedded in the wall, the shop owner's expression darkened. The clerk looked at the owner with a gloomy expression. The shop owner made a call for backup. "Hello, Juian, it's your uncle. I need you to come over for a bit." On the other end of the line was a girl. Every passerby looked at her with surprise and admiration. She walked in a pair of elegant black high heels. People gathered around, making her look like a famous celebrity. "Isn't that Hyan Juian? It really is her." Amidst the admiration, Juian walked to her uncle's shop. Following the sound of the door chime was a welcoming voice. "Welcome." The moment the clerk saw her, he exclaimed, "Oh my God, Hyan Juian." Juian took off her sunglasses and gave a playful wink. "Yes, it's me." The clerk was utterly surprised and thought to himself, "Hyan Juian, South Korea's 4th S-rank hero. I heard she was the owner's niece, but why is she here?" As if reading his mind, Juian proactively explained, "Because my uncle said he had a headache over a hero who came to force someone to sell mana stones." "May I hear the details?" Dojun and Yunyong were in their yard. One was playing with dolls, the other was training. "Even if I hunt all day, it's hard to make 100 million. At this rate, it'll be too late. I need to be strong enough to hunt S-rank gates, even if it's just one day sooner to do that. The most important thing right now is to regain my former strength. But unlike in the old world, the mana in the air here is very scarce. Even if I gather mana like this every day 3 years, no, it might take even longer than that. It would be better if I had good enough equipment, but there's barely any equipment here. Even trash tier items are rare." As he was stressing over this, he sensed danger. The little girl was playing happily when she saw her brother run over. He picked Yunyong up and rushed inside. "Yunyong, you need to get inside the house." Dojun brought the little girl inside and immediately slammed the door shut. Seeing him in such a hurry, his grandmother asked, "What's wrong, Dojun?" Suddenly, the whole apartment shook. The grandmother was startled and screamed, "An earthquake! It's an earthquake!" Yunyong was also frightened and screamed her lungs out. With his extremely sharp senses, Dojun thought, "That's not an earthquake. This could be." The sky turned pitch black, and on top of that, it started to crack. The cracks spread wider and wider like a spider web. The central crack was right in his yard, a rift. The grandmother asked in a panic, Dojun, what the hell is happening?" He gave a stern warning. "It's dangerous. Everyone stay in your rooms." Then he leaped right into that rift. His grandmother and sister called out to him, but he didn't turn back. Dojun, brother. At the same time, at the Seoul Hero Association, the people who received the notification shouted, "Captain, a rift has just been detected in Mapo." The association manager pondered for a moment, then gave an order, a new rift after 63 days. "The White Lion Guild is closest to the Mapo area. Contact them immediately. Quickly dispatch other nearby heroes." "Where was the rift discovered?" The subordinate replied, "In the backyard of a civilian's house." Hearing this, the senior manager gave a bitter smile. "A civilian's house. This is trouble if an ordinary person, not a hero, enters a new rift. They can't get out." His head started buzzing. Worse yet if they lose their life. "A monster wave lasting 10 days in the rift's area. If that happens, all of Seoul will..." The manager asked again, "Have we identified the person who entered the rift?" The blonde agent said his name is Seo Dojun. He's the resident of the house where the rift appeared, and his grandmother said he went into the rift to save his younger sister. So he's not a hero to date when a normal person enters a new rift. What are the chances of a monster wave occurring? The blonde agent hesitated for a moment before replying, "It's 99.9%. Hearing this hellish percentage, the group's faces fell. At the same time, Hiju was blowing up at her subordinate. She snapped irritably, finding it hard to believe an awakening Dojun has awakened. "What the hell are you talking about?" Director Lee replied with absolute certainty he hasn't registered with the Hero Association yet, but he definitely awakened at the gate last time. Hearing that, Hiju became even more furious and cursed. "What the hell is that bastard Kang Chul-woo doing? None of this would have happened if you had killed that bastard yourself. Why make things so complicated and he already took the money?" Manager Lee, tell that bastard Kang Chul-woo if he can't kill that Dojun guy, he has to pay back 10 times the amount he received. "I don't need to contact Kang Chul-woo." "What do you mean?" Director Lee said, his face pale. "A new rift just appeared in Mapo at Dojun's house. We've also just confirmed that Dojun has entered the rift. This news will soon be released to the media." Hearing that, her mood improved a little as she muttered, "So that means we won't have to see that vulgar bastard again, right?" Director Lee hesitated. "That's right." But it was only a slight improvement. She was still furious. Hiju ordered in a low voice, "Keep an eye on things until it's certain." Director Lee reluctantly uttered, "Yes, ma'am." Meanwhile, Dojun was inside the rift's space. The place he was standing in was a primeval forest, incredibly lush with greenery. Dojun felt the vast, majestic nature. His heart stirred. "This is unbelievable. This is the Patis Sua forest I used to visit when I was a child. The shape of the forest, every branch and blade of grass, and of course the wind, the abundant mana in the air, even the shape of the sky and clouds are special. Maybe if I go this way?" He laughed heartily, just as I thought. The world tree, an ancient spirit tree that holds the flow of pure mana. The reason the previous world was destroyed was because this tree was burned and the flow of mana was corrupted. I can't believe the world tree is still safe. I don't know how, but now I can regain my former mana. Dojun, thrilled and excited, sat down to cultivate. Dojun immersed himself in this ultimate cultivation space. Day after day, he meditated inside the hollow of the world tree. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Forgetting to eat, forgetting to sleep for 10 cycles, he was completely focused on his breathing. He kept training diligently like that until a full moon night. Dojun awoke from his frenzied cultivation state. Because of the presence of a pack of monsters, the Volcana, Dojun looked down at his old enemies, silently calculating the debt the ones who had burned the world tree in the past. They charged madly towards the world tree. Dojun habitually glanced at his hip and thought it would be better if I had a water element sword. But the Volcana monsters wouldn't give him any time. Dojun activated his mana and quickly decided, "It doesn't matter, I'll crush them down to the very last one." Blue mana enveloped his body as he stretched out his hand. Then he unleashed his pure mana to attack the intruders. "Erase!" The Volcana, hit by Dojun's mana, clutched its head and shrieked piercingly. Dojun's eyes went wide as he stared at them grimly. Seeing he could easily counter and destroy their comrades, the ones opposite him became much more wary. The Volcana horde didn't dare to recklessly approach Dojun. Mana release, the condensed mana is released in a gaseous form and detonates. This fighting style is also quite inconvenient. It's been a while since I've released this much mana at once. They kept a safe distance, planning to use long-range attacks. In the space filled with smoke and dust, mana bullets came rushing forward. When the mana bullets were just a few centimeters away from him, they were nullified by the mana shield he had erected. Dojun used mana to levitate his body, murmuring, "I've confirmed the world tree is still safe. Now the mana in my body, let's test it a bit with these eyes." With that, he cracked his neck to loosen up and headed towards the Volcana horde. Seeing him get closer, the Volcana continued to open their mouths and roar. Without waiting for them to fire their mana bullets, he aimed for all their mouths. His mana shot straight into the Volcana's mouths, dealing damage from the inside, causing them to explode. 2 unlucky Volcana died just like that in a fiery explosion. Where their bodies vanished, a magic crystal was flung out. Dojun walked past the magic crystals, casually murmuring, "Confirmation complete. I just need to take care of you lot. And I'll be able to obtain the undying embers, right? I remember it has a pretty high drop rate. Let's see how many I can harvest from this bunch." To harvest the undying embers, Dojun went on a killing spree. He just kept destroying and dodging endlessly for who knows how long. He returned to the hollow of the world tree to inspect the fruits of his labor. Amidst the pile of magic crystals, a sparkling golden particle emerged. Dojun's goal was this very golden particle. He picked it up to look at it and couldn't help but mutter to himself, the undying embers, huh? I never thought I'd get my hands on this again. He crushed the golden particle and a flame erupted in his palm. Dojun, intrigued, reached out and poked at it playfully for a bit. I want to absorb more mana from the world tree, but in my current state, that's not feasible. The thing I can do right now is to absorb this ember and convert my mana to the fire attribute. After swallowing one undying ember, he recalled his time as the sword god with a sense of longing. Back then, I didn't need to absorb these embers, but now it takes a whole 10 minutes just to absorb one. Dojun rotated his arm to see if there were any changes. At the same time, he looked at the golden particles at his feet. Then he thought to himself, I'll just absorb as many as I can. In the sky, a giant rift suddenly appeared. Reporters and the media immediately swarmed the area along with the public. Shiangu gritted his teeth and quietly cursed, damn it. He looked up and outside, feeling extremely irritated. It's all because of that crazy guy. What the hell is going on? Hyunwoo glanced at his watch. With a very calm tone, he said he did it to save his sister. But the scene outside hasn't changed at all. Sounds pretty noble, doesn't it? He heard a rumor that it's easy to awaken inside a rift, so he just dived right in without a thought for anyone else. If you want to die, die alone. Why drag others down with you? Hearing the words from the person next to him, he smiled and asked, so what did the association president say? Shiangu replied with apparent frustration, same as always, told us to just wait. However, he himself found it a bit strange. But why Hyunwoo speculated in a low voice, it's likely because this time, rifts appeared simultaneously in the US, China, the UK, Turkey, and Switzerland. Several major countries also showed signs of rifts, so the president must be busy. This is the first time something like this has happened, but I heard they got it under control from the very beginning over there. Shiangu gritted his teeth, his brow furrowing deeply. We're the only ones in trouble, and it's all because of that bastard. The guy who went in first. Just wait until he comes out. I'll smash his face in, you'll see. Outside, the rift was emitting a gloomy humming sound. Now the voice of a daily news anchor. It has been 28 days since the new rift appeared. The Hero Association has issued a Level 1 warning for a monster wave. On the screen was a blurred image of a young man. If the first citizen to enter Mr. S does not return in the next 2 days, someone suddenly reached out, grabbed the remote, and turned off the TV. Changzab, with a cigarette in his mouth, mused thoughtfully, you mean that Seo Dojun guy is Mr. S? Director Eon Gu bowed slightly, the light reflecting off his glasses. That's right. I've had it verified. It's definitely Seo Dojun director Kim Yong-ju Hwang Chang-seop's right-hand man. After hearing the report, he paused for a moment before asking, what do you think are the chances of that guy coming back alive? The man quickly speculated if he's a civilian, it's not even a question. About 1%, no less than 0.1%. A strange, triumphant smile appeared on Chang Xiaob's lips. A civilian ridiculous. Hearing his words, the underlings below nodded eagerly. The people at the Hero Association are completely clueless. He lightly rested his cheek on his hand and nonchalantly suggested a possibility. What if that guy has awakened? Eon Gu thought quickly and immediately offered a hypothesis. If he has awakened, we'd still need to see what rank he is. To be honest, it's hard to say. Chang Xiaob sighed and leaned back in his chair. That's true. Being a good fighter doesn't mean you can survive in a rift. His next command took the man by surprise. That Seo Dojun guy has family, right? Get a hold of them. This order reminded him of Yun Young and her grandmother. What are you planning to do? Sir Chang-seop only made his decision in a low voice for now, just treat them well. Then he took off his glasses, his face revealing a dark expression. If he dies, sell his family's organs, and if he comes back alive, tell him we took care of them, creating a debt. The scene changes to a large ancient tree bathed in brilliant light. Dojun was currently concentrating his mind to enhance his own power. I wonder how much time has passed. In his hand was a pale yellow strand of energy befitting its name, Immortal Embers. I've absorbed hundreds of them. Then the golden strand of energy spun rapidly in his hand. Now I can use fire-type mana anytime. My fire resistance has also increased significantly. Dojun's eyes glanced aside as he recalled his days as the sword god. If we're only talking about the fire attribute, I'm even stronger than I was at my peak when they called me the sword god. His hand gently touched the trunk of the ancient tree. His voice echoed slowly in the air, back then and now. Glimmering motes of light slowly fell from the world tree. Thank you, world tree. Then Dojun bent down to pick up some red gemstones and put them in a basket. He slung the basket over his shoulder and quietly said his farewell. I may not see you again. However, his eyes glinted with resilience and determination. But if you are ever in danger... Finally, Dojun turned and walked away with a gentle smile. Then I will protect you at all costs. The scene quickly shifts to night with the moon high in the sky. He then gradually emerged from the rift. His toes lightly touched the ground. Dojun looked up, observing the desolate surroundings. There's no one within a 1-kilometer radius. Everyone must have evacuated to prepare for the monster wave. As he looked at the row of buildings ahead, a light suddenly flashed. There's a fairly strong aura coming from that direction. Without a second thought, his entire body shot forward like the wind. Very quickly, Dojun appeared behind Hyunwoo and the other person. While observing them, he silently made an assessment. Judging by their uniforms, they seem to be the people from the gate last time. If I get caught, it'll be big trouble. A golden flame from his immortal ember's skill quickly flared up in his hand. In the blink of an eye, Dojun decisively threw it far away. The spark flew across the sky towards the rooftop of a nearby building. It finally disappeared, leaving only a faint flickering light. Suddenly, a massive sky-shattering explosion erupted. He was stunned, not understanding what was happening. What was that? What's that sound? Shiangu turned his head toward the sound and light and quickly asked, "Fire, is there a fire?" The two of them quickly rushed towards the fire. By the time they arrived, the flames had already engulfed the building. His sharp eyes widened in disbelief at what was happening. What is this? Why is there a fire here? Meanwhile, Dojun from a distance was carefully evaluating the effectiveness of his last move. The targeting accuracy of the fire attribute seems pretty good. He looked down at his hand, a sense of longing welling up inside him. Cusack, isn't this the flame you were once so proud of? The memory of his proud and confident demeanor was recalled. You would definitely be pleased since you were the strongest fire mage on the continent. Hyunwoo's eyes suddenly flew open, his pupils contracting to their limit. Startled, he whipped his head around his brows, furrowing slightly. Wait a minute. He looked towards the fluctuating rift and said quietly, "Something's strange about the rift." Seongu couldn't help but ask, "What is it?" In an instant, the rift gradually shrank and then disappeared. Meanwhile, the two of them were rushing back to where the rift had appeared. He quickly noticed the anomaly he hadn't seen before. What the rift? Seongu's stern face couldn't hide his surprise. It's now only a few flickering sparks of the rift remained before fading away. It's disappearing. Dojun slowly walked up the stairs in the silent night. Suddenly, he turned his head, his eyes flashing with a terrifying power and seriousness. Early in the morning, an urgent news bulletin was broadcast across the city. Breaking news, the new rift that appeared in Mappo disappeared early this morning. On a company's LED screen, the MC was still reporting. Today marks exactly 29 days since the citizen known as S entered the rift. The Hero Association, which had been preparing to deal with the monster wave, was taken completely by surprise by this strange phenomenon and is currently investigating the cause. The people walking on the street all looked up at the screen engrossed in discussion, unaware that the person they were talking about was right there. At the same time, a mysterious fire broke out in a junkyard near the rift area. They stopped to chat. That guy S has also disappeared since entering the rift, huh? Serves him right for dying. Who in their right mind would rush into a rift the moment it appears? They spoke with such malice. Still, he's a dead man. Saying that is a bit too harsh. How heartless. If the rift hadn't disappeared, all of Seoul would have become a battlefield. Dojun stopped thinking about the news report. If it disappeared, does that mean I'll never be able to see the world tree again? What a shame. But maybe this is for the best. He looked up at the sunny sky. Besides, the brilliant sun shone down as Dojun told himself, I have other things to protect too. Suddenly, he stopped in front of an old office. At a glance, it looked like it hadn't been used in a long time. Inside the hallway, two thugs were talking to each other, their cigarette smoke filling the old corridor. The one with a scar holding a cigarette smirked. Now that that guy is dead, the old woman and that little girl will be done for soon. The other guy replied, That's right. Our boss isn't just anybody. He'll get at least 10 times their worth out of them. The scarred man puffing on his cigarette continued. Forget the old woman. That little girl will probably grow up to be very pretty. The boss is probably thinking of all sorts of ways to use her. As they were talking, a voice cut them off. Hey. Dojun emerged from the shadows towards them. He spoke. Where is your boss? A car also pulled up right at the old office. A man in black shoes stepped out of the car. Changseub got out of the other car, arrogantly combing his hair as he walked. He let out a smile as if a weight had been lifted. He's finally dead from now on. I can finally sleep in peace. Suddenly, Chang Xiaob turned and asked Shiangu manager Kim, "Do I have anything scheduled for today?" He quickly flipped through his notebook to report you have a lunch appointment with CEO Beek, but there's nothing scheduled for the evening. Right after that, he took off his sunglasses, turned back, and instructed, "Is that so? Contact Madam Kang and tell her I'm coming over tonight. Tell them to prepare some decent new girls." He understood. "Yes, sir." The two of them walked up the old office staircase together. Suddenly, Chang Xiaob's eyes widened in surprise. He had just arrived to see one of his underlings get kicked and sent flying. The guy's blood splattered in front of Chang Xiaob, leaving his mouth agape and speechless. The guy was sent flying, landing in a corner amidst a pile of tools. Dojun stood still, watching the man coughed continuously with heavy gasps. His voice was like the Grim Reaper's as he commanded Chang Xiaob, "Why don't you hurry up and crawl over here like a dog?" Hearing his name called, his whole body trembled. Beads of sweat dripped down relentlessly. Dojun vaulted up and sat calmly on a nearby chair. Looking down at Chang Xiaob kneeling on the ground, his voice was deadly. "Are you deaf?" Terrified, he had no choice but to crawl over as he was told. His hair fell down, obscuring his face, so his expression couldn't be seen clearly. He coldly commanded Bark, "A bastard like you doesn't deserve to be called human." Dojun snarled while the other man kept his head bowed. "Hurry up and bark like a dog." Weak, gasping sounds continuously echoed throughout the room. Chang Xiaob opened his mouth wide in fear and barked non-stop, spit-flying woof, woof, woof. His two underlings faced the wall, ignoring the scene, not daring to help. Chang Xiaob continued to bark like a dog. Dojun looked down at him, dissatisfied, and commanded again, "Bark louder." He sat on the chair and snarled angrily in front of me. "You're so subservient, pretending to be so loyal, you'd give me your own guts. But the moment you see an opening, you stab me in the back." Dojun's murderous gaze fell upon him as he asked Huang Chang Xiaob, "Do you think I've never dealt with trash like you before?" Terrified, Chang Xiaob slammed his head on the floor, begging, "Please, I beg you to spare my life. I'll be loyal to you like a dog for the rest of my life." Dojun kicked him right in the chin. "Shut up." Chang Xiaob spat out blood, flying aside in pain. He turned his gaze to Shiangu Hei Four Eyes. Dojun gave him a task. "From now on, you're the boss. Don't bow your head to a beast like this anymore." He continued speaking to him. "Overthrowing a superior is no big deal for you guys, right? I'm giving you permission, so go ahead." Shiangu fearfully pressed his lips together tightly. He bowed deeply, politely refusing. "Our boss has a lot of powerful connections. If I suddenly become the boss, they'll find it strange." Sweat poured down his face, his voice pleading in fear. "So please don't do this. Please spare my boss this time." Dojun glared at him with a murderous look. "Why are you being so difficult? Aren't you guys the ones who specialize in stuffing people into oil drums and throwing them into the sea or crushing them in a scrapyard?" Losing his patience, he said something that struck ultimate fear into them. "In that case, I'll just throw him into a gate as monster bait." Hearing this, Chang Xiaob hurriedly slammed his head on the floor again to beg for mercy. "Please, I beg you, please spare my life. Just spare my life and I'll live like a dog for the rest of my days." The other underlings also started kowtowing. "We beg you, sir, we beg you." Dojun thought to himself with a disgusted expression, dealing with Huang Chang Xiaob now would be cleaner and save trouble later, but he sighed to himself, "Have I gone soft?" He extended his hand as if offering a life-saving straw here. Chang Xiaob, thinking Dojun was forgiving him, looked up with a joyful face. He reached out with a trembling hand to take his incessantly apologizing, I'm sorry for everything I've done." As he was speaking, a light suddenly appeared from his hand. "From now on, I will see you as my master, huh?" The moment his hand touched Dojun's, it was burned by his fire. At that instant, Chang Xiaob screamed out in agony. In Dojun's eyes, he was screaming pitifully. He used a threatening tone. "This is your last chance." Dojun quickly pulled his hand back. Chang Xiaob's hand, burnt to a crisp, fell onto the cold floor. He turned his back and walked away, while behind him the man continued to scream pitifully. Dojun turned his head back to look at Chang Xiaob and warned, "From now on, if my family gets so much as a single scratch, all of you will die, so protect them properly 24 hours a day for the rest of your lives." There were many rumors, and Dojun, officially speaking, Dojun was a person who had disappeared along with the rift. Sunlight shone down on a W.C. Donald's restaurant. Dojun and his younger sister were sitting inside the restaurant. The little girl was enthusiastically eating a pastry. The government, the Hero Association, and all forms of media had all considered Dojun a dead man. A line of information appeared on the phone. He stared pensively at the phone screen, reporting news about himself. Through the window, Dojun's face appeared with a nonchalant expression. "Even if I were to say I survived and came back, it would only cause more trouble." He looked at Hiju, whose cheeks were puffed out as she bit into a sandwich and smiled. Huang Changxiop will find us a new house soon, so it's better if we just take our time moving. The little girl happily enjoyed the snack in her hand. A few crumbs still stuck to her mouth as the little girl looked up and smiled at him. I'm so happy we're moving soon. Dojun told the little girl, now you can go to preschool like other kids, and that's not all. Next year, you'll even get to go to school. Hearing him say that, Yunyong's mood immediately soured and she slumped. Seeing this, Dojun asked in alarm, what's wrong? You don't want to go to preschool? The little girl replied sadly, that's right. Yunyong explained the reason, which stunned him. The other kids just make fun of me because I don't have parents. Dojun turned away, his lips pressed tightly together. He looked at the little girl and comforted her in a gentle voice. It's okay, then you don't have to go. You don't have to see those kids either. You can just go straight to school next year. Hearing his promise, Yunyong's mood brightened again, really, so I don't have to go to preschool anymore. Dojun replied softly, don't go. He thought with annoyance, should I put her in a prestigious private school so no one can look down on her? An angry voice echoed from inside the hotel, what, you're leaving an old woman and a child in a hotel? Dojun was questioning Shiangu, are you guys serious? The man broke out in a sweat, explaining this hotel is under our company's management in terms of safety. Dojun finally had to accept the arrangement. All right, fine. He opened the door and went in. Yunyong cried out joyfully, brother. The little girl ran happily and threw her arms around him. Dojun's beloved grandmother came and took his hand joyfully. Dojun, my dear, you've really come back. Yunyong hugged him tightly and burst into tears, sobbing, brother, brother. Dojun, flustered by this scene, stood frozen. He smiled and replied to his grandmother, yes, I'm home now. Yunyong's question pulled him back to the present. Brother, are you a hero too? Hearing the question, Dojun asked back with interest, why do you want me to be a hero? The little girl holding a piece of bread replied, no, I'd rather you weren't a hero. Dojun was curious about the reason why is that. The little girl hesitated before explaining because heroes have to fight scary monsters and sometimes they die. Yunyong's face was full of sadness. Our family, grandma and me, we just want you to live with us for a very long time. He opened his mouth but couldn't say anything. Dojun pressed his lips together tightly, saying nothing more. Yunyong's earnest voice still echoed in his ears. Brother, we just want you to live with us for a very long time. Dojun remembered the horrific scenes from his past, even in the harsh world of the past. There were still people who survived until the very end. He sat on the corpses of the beasts he had slain throughout the long time I spent fighting monsters. I lost so many things. Remembering the time Yunyong ran to hug him, but now something precious that I had once forgotten has returned to me. Remembering the meals with the little girl and his grandmother Dojun, resolved to protect them here, I will live to protect that simple happiness. A helicopter flew around the city scouting the situation. At the Korean Hero Association, the headquarters before them was massive and magnificent. Na Taiwan, founder of the Korean Hero Association and director of the World Hero Federation, looked down at the city from high above. Can we really not find anything? The girl beside him answered subserviently. No, sir, at present we haven't been able to determine anything. I sincerely apologize, sir. Tai Huang sighed in frustration. This is so annoying. If a rift can just vanish on its own, it can also reappear at any time. She glanced at him and answered cautiously, yes, having such an unpredictable variable is truly dangerous. It would be easier to handle if it just created a monster wave. He replied in a displeased tone. Watch your mouth. Tai Huang snapped his head back at her and said, you should be thinking about the safety of the citizens and be grateful it hasn't gone that far. Knowing she had misspoken, the girl quickly apologized. I'm sorry, I will be more careful with my words next time. He was a powerful man. Na Taiwan, one of the 100 most respected heroes in the world. If he ran for president, he would surely win with the highest vote percentage in history. People even said he could easily take down major corporations if he wanted to. But what he cared about wasn't politics, nor was it power, but only the safety of the people and preparing for the rifts. He gave his instructions and turned to leave. You can take your time, but investigate it again thoroughly. She reported to Taiwan. Understood. Also, it seems the residents of the house near the rift area have agreed to sell. Hearing this, his voice softened. Is that so? That's good then. Taiwan always prioritized the rights of the citizens. Remember to pay them more than the market price so they don't feel like they're getting a raw deal. If doing so can bring some comfort to those who have lost loved ones, it's well worth it. He turned to work on the computer. Taiwan silently assessed what was on the screen. He looked for a moment and said to the girl, it seems this rift appeared simultaneously in other countries as well. This isn't normal at all. She asked hesitantly, haven't the US and China already taken care of it? He paused for a moment. The problem is England. Taiwan explained grimly all the skilled heroes have been dispatched elsewhere. A notification suddenly popped up on the computer screen. He clicked on it and immediately became alarmed. No way, what the hell is happening? Urgent information appeared. The agency has switched to alert status. Breaking news, the World Hero Federation has issued an emergency bulletin. A monster wave has appeared from the rift in England. Warning, warning, warning. Taiwan couldn't believe the news. The rift in England. Early one morning at a shopping mall, people were bustling about shopping. Dojun, with a bag slung over his shoulder, also blended into the crowd on the street. Before him was a small shop. He opened the door and entered the shop. The employee who was greeting customers suddenly froze. Seeing Dojun walk in, he screamed his head off in fear. The employee hurriedly reported to the manager, sir, that guy, it's him. The manager folded the newspaper he was reading, so it's this guy. He stood up from his chair and asked him, is it you the one who forced a sale of mana stones when I was away? Dojun lowered the bag from his shoulder. Good, I have a lot of mana stones to sell today. I was looking for someone in a high position to handle it quickly. He threw the bag he was wearing forcefully onto the floor. He looked at the bag on the ground and judged, looks like you've brought another pile of low-grade unprocessed stones just like last time. Thinking this, the manager firmly refused. I'm not doing business with you. Please show yourself out. Dojun asked doubtfully, no business. He waved his hand, signaling for him to leave, then turned his back and walked away. It seems you don't understand. A 1% commission fee causes me a huge loss. I won't do business with you anymore, so you'd best take your things and go. Dojun smiled and let out a breath. You're going to regret this. He stopped and said to Dojun, talking to you is really getting nowhere, but just so you know, there's a reason. Even the Gate Center charges a 5% fee. The distribution structure for mana stones isn't as simple as you think. His face darkened as he advised him, just drop it, grab your bag, and get lost, and don't ever come back. Instead of leaving, Dojun moved his foot towards the bag. The dazzling crystals inside immediately spilled out. The employee and the manager both stared in astonishment. The glasses he was wearing fell off his eyes wide in disbelief. The manager's heart pounded when he saw it. Wait a minute, isn't that a hero-grade mana stone? The hero-grade mana stone that's rumored to fetch any price. What is it doing here? Dojun crossed his arms and looked at them. If you don't want it, I'm leaving. That crystal with the added blue hue is a hero-grade mana stone. It was created by a drug lord, the notorious drug lord Cacerion in Mexico, while analyzing mana stones to produce drugs. Its power caused everything around it to shatter. This crystal was incredibly powerful. It activated the latent power within the stone and awakened him as a hero. Since then, this type of stone has become famous as an essential ingredient for awakening and enhancing magical power. The hero-grade mana stone became a sought-after item in the superpowered community, both a rare energy source and an ultra-expensive commodity. Seeing that it was a hero-grade mana stone, the two of them stood there stunned. Their jaws dropped. He put his hands in his pockets and said to them, pack it up, I'm out of here. Seeing that he was about to leave, the manager hastily switched to a respectful attitude as esteemed customer. Would you mind waiting for just a moment, please? The employee was at the counter, wiping each crystal with a cloth. Dojun was drinking water when the manager spoke up, cautiously, esteemed customer. He sat opposite Dojun discussing the price. I think a 0.5% fee is a bit much. Finding it unsatisfactory, Dojun stood up. If you don't like it, then forget it. Seeing this, he hurriedly explained. No, it's not that I don't like it. I was just curious. He asked carefully, why did it change to 0.5%? Dojun replied coldly, because I'm annoyed. Knowing he had angered him, the manager quickly bowed his head in apology. I am truly sorry I was too rude. He glared at him with eyes as sharp as knives. I've heard enough apologies now. Just tell me if you'll adjust the fee or not. The employee looked over at him, his heart full of resentment. What a stubborn jerk. He has absolutely no manners. He had no choice but to accept very well. Then he launched into a long speech. Mana stones are a rare commodity, so if you were a major partner, you could sell them at cost with no commission fee. But it's not like you're always selling hero-grade mana stones, right? Also, when selling at, if this time for us, I'm willing 10% for after listening. Dojun cut him off with one sentence. You're rambling. He stood up to leave. If you don't like it, forget it. The manager quickly shouted. 9%, we're really taking a loss to offer this price, Dojun replied, then don't take a loss. Seeing him still about to leave, he lowered it again. 8%. The chairman will kill me if he finds out. Dojun answered nonchalantly, then don't let him find out. He continued to lower the percentage, wanting to keep him there. 7%, I can't go any lower. Dojun sighed. Who asked you to concede? 6%. I swear there's no profit left. What kind of business is it if you sell without making a profit? The employee, still wiping the crystals, looked at the two of them with a weary expression. The manager was kneeling on the ground, his head bowed. Dojun looked down at him from above and said, "For old time's sake, I'll accept 1% from you." In his heart, he was screaming with resentment, but didn't dare to say it out loud. This is broad daylight robbery. Dojun used his final move. "Let me tell you something first." He said one sentence that made both of them stare in wide-eyed astonishment. "I have about 7 more bags like this." The manager hurriedly shouted, "Hey, what are you still standing there for? Bring the contract out here now." The employee quickly replied, "Yes, sir." Dojun walked out of the shop, stopping to look at the screen showing the amount he had just received. Stone Man has transferred 67 billion won view account. He looked at the screen and thought at this rate, buying that 1.1 trillion won mansion might not be too far off. He pursed his lips, thinking of something. The problem is, to get high-grade crystals, these gates aren't enough. An idea formed in Dojun's mind: if only I could enter and exit rifts freely. The manager came out and was startled to see him still outside. He looked at Dojun and asked, "What is that an energy wave?" He ignored him, still focused on his phone. The manager looked at his screen and understood. "Ah, it's England. I thought it was something serious. Emergency administrative message. Currently, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has just detected an energy wave in the southern region. England tourists and business personnel are advised to urgently adjust their schedules. The embassy is coordinating to ensure the safety of our overseas nationals." Dojun fell silent upon seeing that message. Dojun calmly looked at the administrative warning message from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The message content now displayed emergency administrative message. Currently, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has just detected an energy wave in the southern region. England tourists and business personnel are advised to urgently adjust their schedules. The embassy is coordinating to ensure the safety of our overseas nationals. See more. Looking at this, Dojun's eyes wavered slightly. Then he acted as if nothing was wrong, put his phone away, turned his head, and finally left with just a casual remark: "Those incompetent fools are really something else." On the bustling streets, Dojun walked alone with a mind full of thoughts in the past. No matter where, no matter which association requested it, I would immediately enter the danger zone. His figure from behind was resolute and firm, but I don't live like that anymore. Scene change: a barbecue restaurant. Someone was now flipping succulent pieces of meat on the grill. Juian sat to one side, staring at the meat and swallowing her saliva, her eyes filled with craving. Before the little girl's craving eyes, the server continued to flip the meat. Today, Dojun had brought his grandmother and the little girl for a hearty meal. Dojun's grandmother awkwardly flipped through the menu to check the prices, feeling pained at the sight of a few pieces of meat costing thousands of won. Dojun, 100 grams for 250,000 won. Isn't that too expensive? Dojun sat opposite her. He took a sip of water from his cup and replied, his voice tinged with confidence. "I earned quite a bit this time, so please eat as much as you want, don't worry." Yunyong didn't pay much attention when someone placed a piece of meat for her. The little girl eagerly opened her mouth to taste it. Immediately after, with just one bite, an explosion of flavor erupted, causing Yunyong's eyes to widen in astonishment. The little girl's face was now filled with joy, as if she had taken a bite of heaven. Yunyong happily exclaimed, "So delicious." Dojun's grandmother, sitting beside her, looked at the meat, hesitating to pick up her chopsticks. Dojun noticed his grandmother's dilemma and silently stared at something. Without waiting, Dojun immediately ordered from a nearby waitress fresh short ribs, pork shoulder, butt, chuck flap, and sirloin. "Give me 4 servings of each, please." Dojun's grandmother, seeing him being so wasteful, asked worriedly, "How can we eat all that? Why did you order so much?" Dojun, picking up a piece of meat with his chopsticks, smiled comfortably and reassured her. "Today, please just eat to your heart's content, Grandma. You have to eat a lot, too." Dojun's grandmother couldn't stop him and could only sigh in resignation. Yunyong, sitting beside her, quickly brought a piece of meat close to her grandmother's mouth. Oh my goodness. The little girl had a cheerful expression, holding the meat in front of her grandmother, her voice urging, "Grandma, the meat is super delicious. You have to try it quickly." Facing the little girl's sparkling, pleading eyes, the grandmother finally agreed to open her mouth, her voice not forgetting to chide this child so well-behaved. The moment the meat touched her tongue, Dojun's grandmother was so surprised her eyes flew wide open, trying to hide her delight. She could only stammer out a few sounds. After that, the three of them harmoniously immersed themselves in this warm meal. But right at that peaceful moment, Juian, with her striking long purple hair and long legs, slowly walked over with a swagger. Her slender figure moved gently and leisurely into the restaurant, a beauty that made everyone turn their heads without thinking. Suddenly, Juian called out Mr. Seo Dojun. Dojun, who was eating, immediately turned his head with a look of suspicion. Seeing this, Juian approached, bowing her head slightly to ask, "Can I have a private word with you?" Seeing him continue to eat nonchalantly, she was a bit skeptical. "Are you really a hero?" Before she could finish, Dojun cut her off with a cold tone. "Can't you see I'm eating with my family?" His voice was as cold as ice, his sharp gaze showing no courtesy as he looked at Juian. "Whatever it is, wait until I'm done eating." Seeing someone refuse her for the first time and with such a disdainful expression, Juian immediately froze on the spot. With a look of disbelief, she looked down at Dojun and reminded him, "I'm Hyun Juian." But even if she was a famous S-rank hero, Dojun still didn't look at her and continued to reply with a nonchalant air, "Is that so?" Juian, feeling insulted, stepped back a bit, resentful in her heart. What a strange kind of man. A long wait passed in the waiting area. Juian was now sitting quietly and properly on the chair. People around her, as if they had met a celebrity, couldn't help but turn their heads to look at her. Julian's aura was so captivating that it attracted the gazes of all the young men in the restaurant. A girl nearby watching her from afar couldn't help but blush in admiration. Suddenly, whispering voices arose. "It's really Hyun Juian, the S-rank female hero, the global star. Is that really her?" "Yes. Yes, she's also in the top 10 most beautiful heroes in the world." Juian paid no mind to her surroundings, sitting with her arms crossed and a bored expression as she waited seriously. The young men nearby gazed at her face for a long while, then voiced their question. But who could she be waiting for to make someone like her wait who could be so bold? The surrounding chatter only made Julian's expression darker. Her thoughts filled with a bit of indignation. Seo Dojun. Juian now sat to one side, silently watching his back as he happily spent time with his family. 2 months ago, he first entered a spatial gate and returned safely. Perhaps that's also when he awakened his abilities. I heard he died in the new spatial rift incident in Meipo. Then her gaze shifted to Dojun's carefree expression as he ate as if nothing had happened. Julian was suspicious, yet here he is sitting so calmly. Her flashback continued, recalling his sharp gaze. Julian's heart trembled slightly. One look, one sentence from him was enough to make me tense. But becoming an S-rank hero. In less than 2 months, the Capmore Oil Corporation invested a fortune to mine mana crystals, and it still took them 5 years to produce 1 S-rank. Her face was now filled with nothing but terror. She silently comforted herself. He couldn't possibly become an S-rank in just a few weeks. He must have some other unusual special ability. Suddenly, the sound of a chair being pulled out cut through Julian's train of thought. Yun-young had finished eating. She walked out with her grandmother and Dojun with an excited look. Yun-young smiled brightly and exclaimed, "That was delicious. I'm so full." Juian, who was sitting far away, also stood up waiting for Dojun to pass. But then, out of nowhere, the foot of some rude guy appeared, stomping hard on the floor in front of Dojun's family. Dojun frowned at the sight, his piercingly cold gaze sweeping over the man. The rude man was Shiangu. He looked at Dojun with a provocative expression, his voice laced with mockery. "What's this, Seo Dojun? Am I seeing things? How did you manage to survive and crawl out of that gate?" These words made the other party ponder endlessly. Kang Cheol-woo, seeing that he didn't answer, and instead put on an arrogant face. The man became angry. He stepped closer, his attitude somewhat threatening. "I knew you were an insect, but I didn't expect you to be a cockroach." His appearance startled Juian, who was standing behind, she thought with some hesitation. Why him of all people at a time like this? Dojun looked at the man's threatening posture. Still unafraid, he put both hands in his pockets and didn't bother to reply. With a disdainful attitude, not wanting to make a scene, Dojun immediately ignored him and turned his head away. He shifted his gaze, turning his attention to Juian standing behind him, and said, "Hey, you said you had something to talk to me about." The sudden question made Shiangu turn to look as well. He was shocked when he saw Juian Hyun Juian. What the? Dojun continued to act as if Shiangu was invisible, looking at Juian, his voice cold. "How about this? I'll help you with your matter in return. Look after my family for a bit." Juian hesitated. What specifically? Dojun immediately glanced behind him, quickly signaling to Juian. "Just call a taxi and take them home." He didn't stop, continuing to explain. "I have to go first." Juian quietly observed the icy atmosphere before her. At this moment, Dojun's eyes suddenly became sharp with a powerful killing intent radiating from him. His voice was chilling. There's a debt that needs to be collected. Seeing Dojun's provocation on the other side, Shiangu didn't wait, baring his teeth, his crazed eyes ready to start the fight. In front of a restaurant on a full moon night, Juian was gently guiding Yunyong to the car and said reassuringly, "Don't worry too much, let's get in." The little girl with a worried face glanced at her, waving from outside, and at that other cute girl, too. Goodbye now. Juian forced a smile as she watched the car. The car started to roll away with Yunyong inside. Just then, loud noises erupted from inside the restaurant. Dojun, with a cold expression, stared straight ahead. A large red mark appeared on Cheongu's face. This made him furious, and he whipped his head around, seething with killing intent, shouting, "You bastard, are you looking to die?" A trembling female employee came out and advised, "Excuse me, sir, please don't cause trouble here." Immediately, Shiangu swung his hand and struck the employee, making her cry out as he cursed, "Damn it, get the fuck out of here." The employee fell to the floor and he growled, "Everyone get the hell out." A second later, Shiangu, as if possessed, screamed at the top of his lungs, "Do you really want to die, want an early grave, you bastard?" While he was screaming, a hand shot straight for Shiangu's face. Right after, he moved past him as fast as lightning. Before Shiangu could react, he was hit. He clutched his face in pain and crumpled to the ground. Dojun turned back, his face darkened, and called out Kangcheol-woo. He continued to ask, even as Shiangu kept his head down with blood splattering out, "You locked me in that damn gate to die, didn't you?" Dojun's eyes, filled with killing intent, looked down on him and asked, "We haven't settled things between us yet, have we?" Shiangu slowly got up and said mockingly, "A guy who was abandoned by his own father has no right to talk. Did that stepmother of yours put you up to killing me?" He calmly took a phone out of his pocket. Then Dojun pressed the record button on the phone. He skillfully did all this before speaking, "Say that again." His sharp, iron-like teeth clenched as a bit of smoke escaped, and he said, "What the hell are you mumbling about?" Cheongu's voice rose as his clenched fist was enveloped in flames. "What did you say?" Immediately after, he lunged forward with his fiery fist, cursing, "Your mother was a shameless bitch, wasn't she? Go to hell, Seo Dojun." Shiangu aimed straight for Dojun and rushed forward. His eyes wavered for a moment. At the last second, Dojun managed to block the fiery punch with his hand. A flash of light appeared, surprising Cheongu. His pupils contracted with a look of disbelief as he thought, "My punch," it was repelled. An image of him appeared, his hand outstretched with a blue aura. Right after, it sent Shiangu's entire body flying. Dojun's eyes flashed like lightning as he lunged forward. The surrounding area was filled with smoke and dust from the battle. The employee, cowering in a corner, trembled in fear and said, "The police, what's the number again?" 1111. Then suddenly the phone was taken from her hand. Juian, with a brilliant smile, held up the phone and explained, "Don't worry, I'll take care of this." The employee went limp, her eyes welling with tears as she trembled and said, "Miss Hyunju Yeon, thank you." Meanwhile, he was relentlessly punching him until he bled. She approached the out-of-control Dojun and thought to herself, even though Kang Cheo-woo is a B-rank hero, I can't believe he's being so completely overwhelmed. Juian thought as she walked, could that man be B-rank or higher? No, maybe even A-rank or higher? But even for an A-rank, it wouldn't be this easy to beat a B-rank to a pulp. Her voice made him stop his movements, Seo Dojun. Juian hesitated for a moment, then said, "Be careful, you could actually die." Hearing her words, Dojun frowned and looked down. He stood up, flexed his wrist, and walked towards her. She watched Dojun with some concern and asked this man, "How much do you know about Kang Cheol-woo?" He stopped walking, tilted his head, and looked at Juian with an emotionless gaze, replying, "I think I know quite a bit." "Why is that so important?" She let out a short breath and said hesitantly, "Very important." Then Juian explained, because Kang Cheol-woo's cousin is Kang Young-pyo, the S-rank hero. Dojun slightly bowed his head, glanced at her, and said nonchalantly, "I know, is there a problem?" Juian looked at his unconcerned demeanor and thought to herself, he knew all along, yet he's acting so calm as if it's nothing to worry about. This man is so reckless. As Cheongu lay beaten and unconscious on the ground, her voice echoed, Kang Cheol-woo has always acted so arrogantly because he has Kang Young-pyo backing him up. So what you just did, Seo Dojun, was extremely dangerous. I've heard about the feud between you two, but if you think Kang Young-pyo will sympathize with you, you're gravely mistaken. The corner of Dojun's mouth twitched up slightly. Juyeon's eyes were filled with doubt at his reaction as she asked again, Kang Young-pyo, aren't you afraid? Dojun said as he walked closer to her, no. More accurately, I'm starting to get annoyed. You seem to know a lot about me. His face darkened as he glared at her with wide eyes. Facing him, Juian looked back up, her lips pressed together tightly. The killing intent radiating from the two of them made the employee hiding behind the counter start to cry, thinking, "But you said you'd take care of this." Finally, she was the one to break the tense standoff between them. "I apologize for showing up so suddenly. I came because my uncle asked a favor of me." Julian's voice rang out slowly, "But surely you sold mana stones to Gassan Stoneman, didn't you sell them to me?" A hint of confusion appeared on his handsome face. "Any amount?" She decisively made an extremely generous offer. "I want to buy everything you have." A smile suddenly appeared on the corner of Dojun's lips. "That's quite a large amount." But she, too, revealed a triumphant, slightly sly smile. The assets of an S-rank hero are nothing to scoff at. Ignoring Shiangu on the floor, he gently made a proposal. "Everything has a price, but I have one condition." Juian quickly asked back what condition. His pupils were veiled in a shadow, a faint danger lurking within. "It's nothing big. For someone like you, Juian, it should be simple." Suddenly, the scene changes as a wine bottle is smashed onto the floor. Hiju, angered by the news she just received, raised her voice. "But he's already dead, isn't he? I heard he died in a newly opened rift." She grew even more agitated and threw another bottle past her director. The director, a bit flustered, tried to choose his words carefully. I'm sorry. The Hero Association definitely confirmed that he was dead." But she didn't find that reasonable. "Stop making excuses. What are you going to do now?" He scratched his head and answered hesitantly, But first of all, I have something to report." His voice, steady but with a slight tremble, reported, "Kang Cheol-woo has been targeted for revenge by Seo Dojun." Hiju's eyes immediately widened in confusion. "Kang Cheol-woo? What's the big deal about that madman?" His next words struck Hiju like a bolt of lightning. Perhaps Seo Dojun already knows something. A single drop of sweat silently rolled down her cheek. She looked away carefully, considering her options. It would be a real problem if the bosses or my husband's spies heard about this. But as long as it's handled cleanly, it should be fine. However, if the media finds out, the corporation's stock will plummet. Hiju turned her head and pointed a finger, ordering the director stop it immediately. "Call the press. Tell them if they dare to publish this story, not only the T Corporation, but the W Corporation as well, will pull all our ads and never work with them again. The police, too. Silence them right now." He answered her cautiously and respectfully. "The police and the media, I've already taken care of them." After a tense moment, Hiju let out a weary sigh. "Well done, Director Lee." He timidly lowered his head and whispered to her. "But as you know, that doesn't solve the root of the problem, does it? That's why I have something else to report." The new information from the director made her eyes widen instantly. Kang Cheol-woo's cousin is Kang Young-pyo. Hiju's beautiful face was still filled with astonishment. "Kang Young-pyo, is he the one I'm thinking of?" She was now recalling the person he had just mentioned, that Kang Cheol-woo was well known as scum in the world of heroes. On the surface, Young-pyo would sit and drink cheerfully with him. Everyone thought Kang Young-pyo was very fond of him. However, in reality, he was just exploiting Cheol-woo to do his dirty work for him. He didn't forget to add some newly investigated information. If Cheol-woo is contained by the police and the press, then Kang Young-pyo can't remain unscathed either. I think the other side has already made their move. She leaned forward slightly, her voice laced with caution. "We should meet him. Arrange a meeting as soon as possible." The director quickly accepted the order. "Yes, I'll do it right away." Pausing for a moment, Hiju continued with another request. "And what about Director Hwang Chang-seop of HCS Capital? He betrayed us, didn't he?" The man she was addressing was very cooperative and reported the results. "Honestly, yes, he is currently taking care of Dojun's family." Her face immediately darkened as she gave a hoarse command. "Contact Prosecutor Park right now. He dares to betray me, and side with them, he will pay the price." The scene shifts to a team preparing to enter a dungeon. Currently, South Korea has a total of 37 rift zones. The security staff rigorously checked the identities of the participating team. Among them, 5 were transforming into gates, while for the rest only heroes belonging to the Hero Association were allowed to enter and hunt monsters. The male staff member held out a golden card and spoke flatly, "Hero Juian identity verified. I wish you a safe expedition." Immediately after, the entire team proceeded inside together. Dojun, walking at the back, silently observed the area. There's only one entrance. They clearly know it's Juian, yet they still conduct such a strict check. Inju, an A-rank hero and the guildmaster of the Carnation Guild, spoke sarcastically. "You were the one who suggested hunting in this area first. How strange." Juian subtly rolled her eyes, trying to hide her true intentions. It's just I was free, so I decided to come. She gently turned her head towards the back of her formation, which was exactly where he was slowly following everyone. Back then, Dojun had made a rather peculiar request. There's only one condition: if you let me into the Rift Zone, I'll sell you all the magic stones I get at market price. His reason: because hunting here is a faster way to make money. As she walked, Juian kept thinking to herself about what happened earlier. He dares to step into this dangerous area. Just for that reason, he must be insane. Ahead was the exit with the light of the sun and a lush green meadow. Even without my uncle's request, I still need hero-grade magic stones, so I don't see any problem with this. She calmly strode forward in silence. But Inju, looking excited, started prying. "Tell me the truth, who is that guy?" Juian replied, weary and annoyed, "Just an acquaintance." Her tone was playful and gossipy. "Just an acquaintance. You expect me to believe that he's a boyfriend candidate, isn't he?" However, Juian firmly denied her idea. "No, that's not it. I just owed him a small favor, so I'm bringing him along to repay it." Inju's voice rose slightly, laced with curiosity. "A favor? The S-rank hero Hyunju Yeon owes someone a favor." Dojun remained silent, following behind while the team chatted. It's a long story. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind blew past, causing everyone on the team to pause for a moment. And obviously, he felt it too. The entire team immediately entered a combat-ready stance. A giant, griffin-like bird charged out of nowhere with extreme aggression. Inju's eyes widened as if she couldn't believe this surprise. It's a Cacerion. As the team leader, she quickly issued combat orders in Ju and Ju. Yan, get on defense. Seung-ho, block its leg. Suddenly, a dark shadow shot forward. Without a word, he decisively rushed towards that bird monster. Yuyan's entire team watched Dojun with their jaws agape in astonishment. Seo Dojun, his hand clenched into a fist enveloped in a surge of power. One down. Those present couldn't help but shout out loud, "Damn it, we ran into trouble the moment we stepped through the gate." As soon as the giant monster bird swooped down, everyone quickly got into a ready stance. At the same time, Juian whipped around with a serious expression, and she hastily called out, "In Ju, and I will immediately form a defense. Seung-ho, go for its leg." In the blink of an eye, Dojun shot forward like an arrow, to the astonishment of everyone present. In an instant, dirt and rocks flew everywhere into the air, along with a plume of white smoke. It didn't take much time or effort for Dojun to get in front of the giant monster bird. In his hand now was a brilliantly shining ball of fire, his face growing increasingly grim. This sight left the Cacerion with no time to react. Dojun took down the opponent with a powerful punch that sent it flying backward. Immediately after, he landed safely amidst a scene of chaotically swirling dust and smoke. The scene just now left Juian completely stunned. She just stared at him with a look of disbelief. Now Dojun stood casually before the heavily injured body of the giant monster bird. Although it lay paralyzed on the ground, its eyes were still wide open in terror. The sight before him left Seung-ho dumbfounded. He spoke in confusion. What the hell, it died in just one hit. As soon as he finished speaking, Dojun raised his foot, his voice echoing all around, "Not yet." He decisively stomped on the giant monster bird's head without a shred of mercy, his voice turning cold. "This is what you call a finish." Dojun's action further astonished those present. They couldn't stop looking at him with suspicion. Suddenly, Inju turned to Juian with a pleading look. She stammered, Who is that person?" After a moment of hesitation, she answered cautiously, "He's just stronger than normal." Hearing this, the other woman lost her composure. She shook Julian's body violently and questioned loudly, How can you even say that? Taking down a Cacerion in a single blow. How many heroes are strong enough to do that?" Faced with this, she calmly adjusted her glasses, her voice placid. "If it's just about taking it down, you could do it too." At this point, Inju was even more astonished. She questioned relentlessly, "How can you say that? It was an aerial battle, it was hit head-on, didn't even have time to dodge, and went down right on the spot. All with a single blow." Those words struck Juian like a bolt of lightning. In an instant, her eyes filled with terror. That monster bird. And so, as her gaze fell upon Dojun's figure, a thought suddenly flashed through her mind. That man. Just who in the world is he? Suddenly, Juian cleared her throat. "Hey, I think we have to change the plan." She announced her decision to the astonished people around her. "I'm going to head a little deeper into the central area." Suddenly, Dojun, who was butchering the Cacerion, spoke up. "Hey." He didn't hesitate to emphasize, meeting Juion's stunned gaze. "I have no intention of sharing the spoils with someone who didn't contribute." Dojun took out something red, placed it gently into his bag, and said nonchalantly, "And I have no intention of begging either." Hearing these somewhat arrogant words, Juion spoke her judgment. I don't think your skill level is suited for this place. Do you intend to go deeper? Hearing this, the corners of Dojun's lips involuntarily curved into a perfect smirk. He looked up at her, his voice carrying a hint of admiration. Interesting. Before Dojun could process it, Juian had already turned and walked away. She casually made a demand. I know the way around here, so I'll lead. If you don't want to get lost, stick close to me. In a flash, she leaped away from the spot, leaving him alone in a cloud of dust. Just like that, Juian glided forward as if flying. Dojun just stood there, stunned, watching the girl's figure recede into the distance. Immediately after, he too got into a ready stance. Before long, only Inju's group was left. Watching the fading figures, Inju's voice began to ring out. If Juian is a bullet, then that man is a brilliant, blinding light. Right after, the person next to her quickly responded, Guildmaster, aren't we going to follow them? Hearing that, she asked back, Can you guys even keep up? The other person replied in a helpless tone, Of course not. It's hopeless. And so the voices of two people echoed through the green forest. Well, I guess we're the supporting cast today. Let's just wander around and grind for experience points like always. Yes, ma'am. The remaining people hurried over to the Cacastrion's corpse with curious expressions. Upon seeing its battered state, one person suddenly mused, Everyone keeps praising us for being A-rank heroes. The owner of that thought was none other than Inju, her face now filled with fear, but in front of an S-rank we're truly insignificant. Juian is like that too. These thoughts relentlessly besieged her mind. And as for that man, elsewhere Juian was running forward at the fastest speed she could manage. Suddenly she glanced back over her shoulder. Seeing the empty space behind her, she felt safe and wondered, should I slow down a bit? Suddenly, Dojun's familiar voice rang out, Can't you go any faster? At that moment, Juian lost her footing and fell, letting out a terrified scream. Her face was now filled with sheer terror, a thought suddenly overwhelming her mind. What the hell? He caught up to me. Speed is my specialty. I'm ranked second in all of South Korea. Suddenly, Dojun's footsteps came to a halt. He casually looked back just to mock her. You're slower than I thought. You were running like you were trying to shake someone off. Hearing that Juian refused to back down, she kept retorting, Who said I was trying to shake someone off? However, she was panting heavily. I've never. Before them now stood a towering mountain. Suddenly, Dojun spoke up, calling out softly, Hey, what's that over there? Hearing that Juian's gaze became more determined than ever, she cleared her throat slightly. Ah, that place. She emphasized continuously as she looked at the scene ahead is where the spatial rift boss monster resides, a boss monster. Juian didn't hesitate to remind him, yes. Have you ever heard of Cacerion, the giant beast that's 20 meters tall and looks like a flying lizard? Don't be foolish enough to charge in. It takes at least 3 S-rank heroes to even have a chance of taking it down. Hearing this information, Dojun looked delighted and asked back, That thing holds an imagination-grade mana stone, right? Immediately, she replied to him, That's right. It's just 1 rank below a supreme-grade mana stone. But are you even listening to me? Without letting Juian say another word, his feet had already unconsciously stepped forward. Witnessing this action, she was horrified and blurted out, Don't tell me you're planning to hunt it. However, Dojun didn't answer her. He shot forward like an arrow. This scene left Juian stunned on the spot. She kept wondering with a terrified face, I didn't bring you here to do something so reckless. My God, what is he trying to do? As soon as she came to her senses, she hurriedly chased after him, her piercing scream echoing everywhere. Hey, stop, right there! Meanwhile, the forest was now left with the image of 2 people endlessly chasing each other. Dust from the ground billowed up ceaselessly because of it. Night quickly enveloped the entire area, plunging it into an eerie silence. Juian was so horrified, her eyes widened. A thought suddenly flashed through her mind. What the hell is happening right now? The image of the cockatrice being defeated flashed through Juian's mind once again, causing her to fall deep into thought is happening now. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Dojun was continuously searching for sharp swords. Suddenly, Juian turned back her face, showing clear determination. Cacerion is an extremely terrifying monster. Not only that, but in her mind, there was also the figure of Hyol. He stood there with a muscular physique. Park Hyol, an S-rank hero famous for his Cacerion hunts. He charged forward aggressively without hesitation. Even he once led 30 A-rank heroes on his first hunt. Hyol had fearlessly confronted the cockatrice, and as a result, all the A-rank heroes perished. Only Park Hyol survived, returning on the verge of death. His whole body was covered in bulging veins, then his face also showing a hint of exhaustion after that Park Hyol. However, Hyol still exuded a majestic aura and gathered 1 more S-rank hero and 200 A-rank heroes for revenge. Images of the intense battle gradually reappeared in Juyan's mind. Back then, a few blue tentacles had shot out quickly. It didn't hesitate to wrap tightly around its opponent's body, holding them fast. Seizing this opportunity, Hyu and his comrades charged forward to attack in the blink of an eye. A moment later, the monster in front of them let out a pained howl. The scene was gradually enveloped in darkness as the monster began to dissipate. This sight made Hyu and the others present feel ecstatic. They cheered endlessly with joy they had finally defeated Cacerion. The sky returned to its usual clear blue, but almost the entire participating force had perished. Back in the present, Dojun slowly stood up. The powerful guild, Sweet Life, founded by Park Hae-yeol, has still not recovered its strength in the 3 years since that battle. He suddenly looked towards Juyan with a sharp gaze. However, his next question left her so confused she was stunned. You know very well you didn't contribute anything, right? Faced with this question, Juyan felt endless disbelief. She thought to herself, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would never have believed it. The image of Dojun taking down the giant monster reappeared in her mind, that infamous monster, Cacerion. At this thought, Juyan's face became even more horrified, taken down by this man in just a single blow. In Dojun's hand now was a red item. He calmly looked at it with a pensive gaze. Dojun quickly put it in his bag and spoke slowly. I probably don't need anyone to guide me anymore. Immediately after he started to leave, much to Juyan's astonishment, from now on, I'll act on my own. Suddenly she spoke up. Aren't you going to take Cacerion's other parts? Besides the mana stone, its beak and claws are also valuable research materials. Hearing this, Dojun's steps suddenly halted. He turned his head back, his voice tinged with nonchalance. They're not profitable. Hearing this, Juyan didn't know how to respond. She just stood frozen on the spot. Before Juyan could react, Dojun turned his back and left, leaving only a few words behind. Instead of wasting time on that, I'd rather hunt another monster's mana stone. Take them if you want. Consider it a guide fee. At that moment, she was noticing something beside her. A moment later, she finally replied, I don't need it. Twilight quickly enveloped the entire area. Dojun's backpack lay quietly on the ground. Around it, Inju's group was staring at it intently in silence. Suddenly, the young man with pink hair spoke up. He borrowed that huge backpack and brought it back full of mana stones. Can you believe it, sis? As soon as he finished, someone replied that amount of mana stones our entire guild would probably have to hunt for 20 hours straight to get that much. On second thought, we'd probably have to grind for 3 days without rest to get that many. Meanwhile, Juyeon sat quietly to one side, listening to the whole conversation. Just who is this person? At that moment, a thought suddenly consumed her entire mind. Not only is he fast, but he gathers so many. Inju's face momentarily filled with absolute terror. If what Juyan said is true, then he all by himself, with no special equipment and no combat armor, could still defeat Cacerion. What she was seeing then was the sight of Dojun standing majestically on a high mountain peak. That alone was enough to call him the strongest hero in Korea, perhaps even the strongest in the world. Suddenly, Inju turned around, her face now showing only a dazed expression. Dojun had now returned, carrying 2 backpacks with him. Before everyone's astonished eyes, he casually dropped the heavy backpack to the ground. Dojun slowly rummaged through something amidst the chatter of the people around. My God, he brought back another full backpack. If I told anyone about this today, no one would believe me. They'd just think I was crazy. The owners of those voices were the black-haired girl and the pink-haired boy standing nearby. Let's be clear, not a word of this gets out. Who would believe it even if we told them? Yeah, you're probably right. Suddenly, someone was seen approaching. Juyan and Dojun stood there exchanging words under the suspicious gazes of the others. They began to gossip non-stop. Hey, are those two in love? It must be when Juyan brought him here. I noticed something was off. It takes a man like that to not be overshadowed when standing next to Juyan. As soon as they finished, the other person replied, they really do look good together. You can tell at a glance they're a power couple. And so Inju was lost in her own thoughts, her face now only showing a pensive expression. Wait a minute, but this doesn't look much like a new romance. Meanwhile, Juyan and Dojun were still talking animatedly. That guy doesn't treat Juyan gently at all. I can't believe someone dares to treat her like that. The moment he handed her the backpack, those present exclaimed in surprise, hey. The sight of Dojun turning his back and leaving astonished Inju, she couldn't stop wondering aloud, what's this he's just leaving without even a goodbye? Meanwhile, Juyan just hummed non-committally. Not stopping there, Inju sidled up next to her and asked what about those backpacks, did he leave them all behind? Only then did Juian clear her throat slightly. I told him that if the news of him defeating Cacerion got out, he would become famous instantly. The words she spoke astonished the other person even more, and yet he just waved his hand dismissively, said it was too much trouble, and left it all for me to handle. She kept commenting, does someone like that really exist in this world? However, Juian remained silent, her expression gradually darkening. A thought quickly flashed through her mind, causing her face to blush slightly. Right, does someone like that really exist? The light of a new day shone across the modern city. On the polished glass were the raised letters of the fitness training room. The punching bag was struck 3 times in a relentless barrage. Hiju let out a grunt, channeling all his strength into a punch. In the end, he beat the punching bag until it burst into pieces. His eyes were filled with anger mixed with frustration. Hiju glared forward as his displeased voice rang out, "Damn it, look at me now, what a mess." Park Haju, S-rank hero guildmaster living the sweet life part of the Korean Hero Association. The guard following him put on a confident smile to reassure him, "Please calm down, guildmaster. They say the longer a frog crouches, the farther it leaps." He endlessly flattered Haju to the high heavens. "The more you patiently endure these hard times, the more glorious your reputation will become." Taking a towel to wipe his sweat, he silently agreed, "Yes, that's right. I'll make those who look down on me regret it." The man bowed low and continued his flattery. "Exactly. Little by little, everything you've accumulated will become power and then explode violently." The guard's final sentence made him gulp. "At that time, everyone will have to submit kneeling at your feet." And it seemed the man knew exactly how to please his arrogant master. Besides, when it comes to dealing with Cacerion, who knows it better than you. Handing him a water bottle with a fawning smile, he said, "In the future, you'll be known as the hero who conquered Cacerion with the smallest team in the world. The association might even grant you exclusive mining rights for Cacerion." Haju took the water bottle, having no intention of rejecting the praise. That's true. He quickly regained his cheerful mood and replied confidently, "No one knows that monster better than I do." Looking at the framed photo in his award, he grew quiet for a moment. But compared to 3 years ago, the guild has shrunk pathetically. Haju glanced at his guard with a smiling face. "Even so, the only one who can take down that monster bird is still me, right?" Hearing this, the man was emboldened to praise him even more. "That's right, who else could do it but you, guildmaster?" Their laughter echoed throughout the training room. The scene shifts to a file containing Dojun's personal information. Young Pyo raised an eyebrow, looking at the paper, curiously. "Seo Dojun, huh? So it's this punk Kang Young Pyo, S-rank hero of the Hero Association, cousin of Kang Cheol-woo." His subordinate bowed his head slightly and reported respectfully, "Yes. A few months ago, hero Kang Cheol-woo tried to eliminate him by throwing him into a spatial gate. This surprised him a little, and he asked back, 'And he didn't die, he even awakened his abilities there.'" The man replied carefully, "Yes, that's correct." Young Pyo ordered his subordinate to continue, "Go on." The man leaned in to present the information he had gathered. The client this time is Hong Hiju, vice director of T Corporation, and also the second daughter of W Corporation. His eyes still glued to the profile, he asked flatly, "Why would a ridiculously rich young lady like her get involved with a guy like that? Of course, there's a reason for everything, and it lies with his identity. I heard So Dojun is the illegitimate son of the chairman of T Corporation, brought to the main house at age 7, but he was kicked out 6 years ago when Hong Hiju gave birth to a son." A scornful, slightly smug smile appeared on Yongpyo's lips. "He's still their own flesh and blood, yet that Chaebol family is so ruthless, huh?" He casually stood up from his chair and asked lightly, "So how much did Cheol-woo get for that job?" The subordinate's soft, slow voice replied, 30 billion. His tone was slightly dismissive of his cousin. "Is that all?" Young Pyo reached for a golf club and said, "But he was taken care of nicely, wasn't he?" The man's obedient voice replied, "Yes. The report said he was just beaten up, but in reality his whole body suffered severe burns, his eyes were ruined. He's living like a dead man." He calmly placed the club in front of the golf ball and commented lightly, "How nasty." With a single light stroke, Young Pyo perfectly sank the ball into the hole. His face suddenly took on a dangerous and cruel expression. "If it were me, I would have chopped off his limbs and crushed his head." Meanwhile, his subordinate continued to report, "And I heard." His next words made Young Pyo startle and miss his shot. Juian helped Seo Dojun back then. The ball rolled and brazenly missed the hole. He strode aggressively in front of his subordinate, his voice full of surprise. Juian, why would she help that bastard? What's her relationship with him? The man, terrified, spoke in a timid and trembling voice. I'm really not sure. I only know that the case was settled smoothly thanks to Juian's testimony. Without another word, Yongpyo instantly grabbed him by the collar and yelled, "Investigate it for me immediately. Find out what their real relationship is. If they're not related by blood, there must be some kind of deal between them. Find out what it is." The panicked subordinate immediately scrambled towards the door. Yes, I'll investigate right away." Now his brow was tightly furrowed, filled with annoyance. The golf club in his hand was bent out of shape from his grip. Yongpyo clicked his tongue and threw the club forcefully onto the floor. He pressed his lips together as a sense of unease washed over him. Hiju's side is definitely going to contact me soon, wanting me to finish the job that Cheol-woo couldn't. After calming down for a moment, he finally let out a breath. Fine by me. A greedy and cunning expression now spread across Yongpyo's face. For a chaebol's daughter, money shouldn't be an issue. The sky quickly turned to night and the moon was already high. Dojun walked leisurely along the deserted street. It seemed he was deep in thought about something. Just as I predicted, hunting in the rift is much more effective than in the gate. His footsteps echoed on the quiet street, adding to the solitude. Looks like I'll have to ask Juian to guide me many more times. Dojun recalled what Juian had told him then. If you sell the Cacerion monocrystal, people will ask who caught it, what your abilities are, and the press will follow you day and night. It's a loud and annoying hassle. It's best to just hold on to it for now. She closed her eyes, lightly curious herself about what he planned to do. If your goal is to become famous, I won't stop you. But what's your plan? He then unexpectedly placed the backpack into her hands. Now a confident smile slowly formed on Dojun's lips. I'll find another way to get in and out of the rift zone. His steps finally came to a halt in front of a long, dark corridor. For now, I'll just rest. The new house Hwang Chang-seop prepared is pretty decent. He gently pushed the door open and stepped inside the house. But a cold glint appeared in Dojun's eyes. Seeing the neatly arranged shoes by the door, he couldn't help but wonder, whose shoes are these? Just then, a sweet voice called out from inside the house, "Brother." Right before his eyes was a group of dangerous-looking men dressed in black. Cheol-yong glanced at Dojun, saying nothing. Meanwhile, a panicked Yun-yong rushed forward and hugged him tightly, brother. Not letting his guard down, Dojun immediately demanded, "Who are you people?" Just then a man cut him off. "You're CO Dojun, right?" The man asked dryly with a cold expression, "I am Prosecutor Park Cheol-yong from the Seoul District Prosecutor's Office. You know a Mr. Hwang Chang-seop, correct?" He remained silent, carefully protecting the young girl behind him. Then the man flatly made a firm declaration. "You are under emergency arrest on suspicion of participating in the illegal high-interest loan sharking activities of HCS Capital, the company headed by Mr. Hwang." He turned to her, his gaze murderous and terrifying, saying, "What would happen if I killed Hiju?" The towering skyscraper stood majestically under the gentle golden sunlight, and in front of it, a stone plaque engraved with the words, "Prosecution Service," exuded righteousness and the heavy weight of the law. Dojun sat in the interrogation room, his hands cuffed to the sides of his chair. His eyes glanced to one side as if something had caught his attention. A pair of legs belonging to a man in black trousers and leather shoes strode down the hallway as the man's voice rang out, Yes, Director Lee, rest assured both Hwang Chang-seop and Seo Dojun are being very obedient." Cheol-yong, holding a phone to his ear with one hand while opening the door to a room with the other, said, "Thank you for your concern about my daughter's study abroad program." He looked ahead at the man sitting in front of a computer watching the cameras, then through the transparent glass at Dojun, sitting in the interrogation room, and continued his conversation on the phone. "Please convey my regards to Director Hong." As Dojun sat on the chair with his hands resting freely, he came into his view the reason I became a prosecutor. He leaned one hand on the table, smiled, and said, "Is precisely to remove scum like them from this society." A stack of documents was slammed down on the table. Cheol-yong sat with his legs crossed, holding up a couple of documents, and said, "What the hell have you been up to all this time, huh? The charges listed right here are enough to land you in prison for 10 years. He held up the document for him to see. Hwang Chang-seop's side has provided more than enough evidence against you. Dojun's expression remained unchanged, his gaze calm and stern. Juian, furious and losing his patience, yelled, "Look at that defiant glare, you think I'm making this stuff up." His face suddenly froze when Dojun said, "Isn't this just a scheme by that crazy woman Hiju?" He looked at Dojun in confusion as the pressure in the room mounted and he asked who Hiju, who's that? Unworried, he thought to himself, judging by the situation, Huang Chang Siop's faction must have been completely crushed. I had planned to stay quiet and cooperate to make things go smoothly, but at this point... He took a step forward as he spoke. "I don't know where you heard that from." Cheolyong's face darkened and his eyes widened with murderous intent as he threatened Dojun. "But you think Korean prosecutors are a joke? Your life is over, you bastard." His face darkened as his pupils began to glow gold, glaring back at the man threateningly. Cheolyong's face was suddenly filled with fear and he lost all of his previous imposing aura. He stood stunned, looking down at him in utter disbelief, his voice trembling. He gritted his teeth, raising a hand as he lost all reason, his voice sharp. You son of a bitch!" Suddenly, a voice called out, causing him to freeze his raised hand, stopping stiffly in midair. A man holding documents in one hand opened the door with the other and called out, "Prosecutor Park, could you step out for a moment, please?" A piercing scream suddenly echoed through the quiet hallway. "What?" Cheolyong looked at the document and said, "Is it possible the machine is broken?" The other person immediately refuted, "No, sir, I've already checked it. There's nothing wrong with the machine." His hand tightened on the document, wrinkling it slightly as he spoke in a doubtful tone. The hero scanner reported him as a normal person. "What? That's ridiculous. That's Seo Dojun," the man said softly with a worried expression. "I'm not sure why either. Maybe the information about him awakening was wrong." Cheolyong's face darkened as he thought. "But that information came from the T Corporation. They can't be wrong. And he even knew Hiju's name, so who on earth is he?" Dojun remained seated in the interrogation room, looking down at a document as the light from the lamp shone down on him. His face tinged with anger as he thought to himself, "Now I see why people call Korean prosecutors a bunch of scumbags. Maybe I should just wreck everything." The door suddenly opened as he was still thinking and take Grandma and Yunyong to run away somewhere far away. Yuyan walked in and asked, "What are you doing here?" He sighed in frustration and replied to her, "I don't even know myself." She put her hands on her hips, tilted her head, and advised him, "Don't do anything rash. I know you're in shock, but using your power will only make things worse." He looked at her and asked, "So are you planning to help me?" She crossed her arms reluctantly and replied, "It's not really about helping, it's more that..." She spoke with a sense of justice. "Now that I'm sure you're innocent, I can't just look the other way. If I didn't know, it would be fine. But when it's clear an innocent person is being framed, I can't remain silent." He smiled, "So that's how it is." She walked closer to him and said, "The Hero Association is going to investigate. They're looking into the illegal use of a hero ID and the Mapo spatial rift incident at your house." He asked, "What about my family?" With one hand on her hip, she said resentfully, "Am I your secretary? Why should I have to take care of your family affairs as well?" He glared at her. She didn't dare to meet his gaze and looked away. She turned away and replied, "Your family is safe, so don't worry." His expression relaxed into a smile as he said, "Thank you, I will definitely repay this debt." Her cheeks flushed as she turned back to glance at him and said, "In any case, please try to hang in there for a little longer. I'll do my best to resolve this as quickly as possible." Outside the building, the sunlight still shone gently. Hyunju Yan did not choose to clear Dojun's name directly. She exposed Prosecutor Park Cheol-yong for taking bribes and illegal lobbying, leading to his dismissal. A car sped down the highway. A subsequent fair investigation confirmed that Dojun was completely uninvolved in the incident. Juian focused on driving while Dojun stared out the window with his arms crossed. "I couldn't escape punishment for illegally using a hero ID, but thanks to Hyunju Yan's vigorous defense, my sentence was suspended." A voice emanated from the car's integrated tablet. "A never-before-seen monster has just attacked civilians in England. It resembles a praying mantis, is about 1.5 meters tall, has 4 eyes, and possesses an extremely powerful jumping ability." He said casually, "It's a Macassian." Startled, she turned to look at him in surprise. "Wait, how do you know that name? Currently, only the association is supposed to know the name of this new monster." He didn't answer, instead looking out the car window as he reminisced monster names aren't just made up on the spot. A large red magic stone rested on a pedestal connected to numerous energy lines. Magic stones not only contain energy but also store the inherent information of their species. Analyzing a magic stone reveals the monster's name and data. An image of the beautiful Earth appeared on modern Earth. It's done through science. An image of a destroyed planet reduced to fragments appeared, but in that fallen world it was done with magic. The glowing red magic stone appeared along with a terrifying mantis-like monster. Therefore, if a monster appears in both worlds, it's very likely Dojun would already know its name. He calmly crossed his arms and said, "Handling a Macashin is simple. You just need to use red fire ant extract." She asked doubtfully, "Red fire ant?" He looked at her and cleared up her confusion. "They're harmless to humans, but they're a powerful paralytic poison for Macashins. One spray and it won't be able to resist." She grew quiet and said nothing. After a moment, she asked him doubtfully, "Seo Dojun, who are you really?" He didn't answer as the car continued to speed down the highway. She glanced at him. He remained silent as if he hadn't heard, so she asked resentfully, "Are you even listening to me?" His face suddenly darkened as he spoke. An angry woman bit her nails. Hiju sat in her office, her face a mixture of anxiety and fear as she bit her nails nonstop. A bodyguard stood at attention looking at her worriedly. The bodyguard, holding a document with his hands behind his back, said softly, "That's the situation." She bit her nails, her voice a mix of anxiety and irritation. "Hyunju-yeon, why is it her?" The bodyguard gestured with the document and tried to explain it's still not clear. No one knows what her relationship with Dojun is or how they met. Her face twisted with malice, exuding a murderous aura. Her long fingernail broke from the constant biting as she hissed, "That bitch Hyunju-yeon, what the hell is happening?" Hiju stood up, slamming her hands on the desk, and demanded, "And what's this about Dojun not being a hero? You told me he had already awakened." As a murderous aura radiated from her, the bodyguard spoke with a trembling voice. "We're not sure about that either, but it does seem true that he has awakened. Perhaps he possesses an ability that can bypass the hero detection equipment, but that's just my speculation." Her eyes widened, filled with malice. She pointed a finger and screamed, "Contact Kang Young-pyo right now, 20 billion no, tell him I'll pay 30 billion, do it immediately." Young-pyo's sarcastic voice cut in, "I'm not doing it. 30 billion is a paltry sum, it has to be double for me to even consider it." The man standing straight, with his hands behind his back, spoke up, "Double, sir. Isn't that a bit excessive?" Young-pyo raised one finger and said, "You don't understand a thing." He propped his feet on the table for Hong Hiju. "I'm the only choice, besides, after the job is done, 60 billion is nothing to her." His face darkened, his pupils glowing red with malice as he smiled. "Now that Hyunju-yeon is also involved, if I have to face an S rank, then that price is more than reasonable." The man with a wary and worried expression spoke up, "Hyunju-yeon, she's definitely a dangerous opponent." He suddenly slammed one of his feet down on the table. The action startled the other man, who flinched in fear and caution. Young-pyo radiated a threatening aura, speaking with a hint of anger to the other man. You idiot. You think all S ranks are the same? Someone like Hyunju-yeon, I can take care of her in 20 minutes tops." The man's face paled with fear as he replied, "Yes, boss." His expression suddenly changed, the threatening anger replaced by a gentle smile as he asked, "Has the association responded yet?" The man replied against a backdrop of expensive wine bottles chilling in an ice bucket. "The thing is, they said they can't increase the payment due to the financial situation in the UK." The man continued watching his back as he walked towards the window. The association also publicly announced that they will carefully select the nominated heroes he cursed in frustration and said, "Damn it, they're playing such hardball that I don't even dare to say the pay is too low and I'm not going." He turned his head back and said, "The guys at the association are the real gangsters. When do we depart?" The man quickly replied, "We fly in 3 days." A voice was heard under the clear blue sky. "They've arranged for us to fly with the Japanese hero team." He looked out the window at a plane flying over the city's tall buildings. "Ah, Japan, huh? I was planning to meet Takashi anyway." With his hands in his pockets, he said softly, "The Macashin is a new monster. No one has found its weakness yet. The city scene was beautiful and modern. If I discover its weakness, my value will skyrocket." Blinding purple lightning flashed with incessant thunder, Cambridge, England. People were scattering in panic below as a monster in the sky looked down and flew after them. The monster had a long neck with pincers on both sides, its eyes glowing yellow as it looked down at armed figures standing resolutely to block its path. They looked up at the monster, their faces filled with anxiety and fear. The monster suddenly let out a piercing shriek and charged forward. Its scythe swung down powerfully towards them. They quickly scattered to dodge the attack as the scythe slammed down heavily, cracking the stone ground. Several sword-wielders leaped up to attack the monster. Someone on the ground cast a spell attacking the monster. The monster's head was quickly severed from its body by the attacks. Its head flew into the air, detached from its massive body. The headless body collapsed powerlessly onto the stone ground. They looked at the monster's corpse lying on the stone ground. They tiredly wiped the sweat from their brows. The platinum blonde woman turned her head and looked back with a puzzled expression. Two more monsters identical to the first also shrieked piercingly, radiating a terrifying and chilling murderous aura. The woman's eyes widened in terror, caught off guard as she watched it charge towards her. The purple lightning never stopped growing even more intense within the dark clouds as blood splattered onto a bell tower column. Three giant monsters ravaged the city, causing buildings to collapse and fires to erupt everywhere. Britain's heroes were fighting with all their might to halt the monsters' advance south, but without clear information on the enemy, they were utterly helpless. The monsters continued moving towards the cities ahead, where buildings still had their lights on, and now with the Cambridge defense line having collapsed the capital, London was less than 60 kilometers away. Dust and smoke filled the air, making it hard to see clearly, but the monster's eyes glowed yellow, visible through the haze. Its yellow eyes glowed as it stared ahead. Suddenly, its eyes stopped glowing yellow and dimmed to gray. That monster collapsed, alarming the others and causing them to shriek. One by one, they began to collapse lifeless. An aircraft flew overhead, shining a light down below. Juian, Yongpyo, and two others looked down with surprised and stunned expressions as someone exclaimed, "Oh my God, so it was true." Her face was still frozen in surprise while the others started praising her. Hyunju. Yeon was right. The red flower ant extract is really effective. Even the Macassians couldn't withstand it. You're amazing. Yongpyo's face darkened with jealousy as he thought to himself, no way is she really at this level. What the hell is going on? She smiled, looked back, and said, all right, let's move in and finish this. The two behind her immediately replied, yes, ma'am. Juian smiled, sword in hand, as she and her two companions jumped down from the helicopter. A few hours later, a plane landed. Inside the building, reporters stood by the door with their cameras waiting. Young reporters, some holding mics, others with cameras, exclaimed, wow, the press is here in droves. A young man spoke up, well, of course it's Hyunju Yeon. There's no doubt she's the MVP of the UK mission. The man with glasses smiled and replied, she was the one who discovered the Macassians' weakness, becoming a true hero. She pulled the UK back from the brink of despair, so of course she's a hero. I heard the British royal family is going to knight Hyunju Yeon. The young man's eyes lit up as he shouted, there she's here. A pair of legs stepped out. Juian appeared with a happy expression, pulling a purple suitcase with Yongpyo behind her as camera flashes started going off. The reporters began shouting questions, causing her face to freeze in confusion. Miss Hyunju Yeon, please look this way. How did you discover the Macassians' weakness? Yongpyo smiled as he heard a question directed at him. Mr. Kang Yongpyo, could you give us a comment? We heard you eliminated the most Macassians during this operation. A smiling Yongpyo was shown being interviewed on a large city screen. A delegation of 200, including hero Hyunju Yeon, returned today. As is widely known, it was the extraordinary efforts of the Korean heroes that saved the UK. The key to defeating the Macassians was to disperse red flower ant extract into the air. Dojun, wearing a hoodie, slightly raised his eyes to look at the news screen. Suddenly, the corners of his lips curled into a mocking smile. Meanwhile, the man being interviewed was still laughing and talking animatedly. Suddenly, Dojun's gaze turned cold as a thought flashed through his mind. Kang Yongpyo. At a certain luxurious cafe. Juian placed some bags on the table and said politely, these are gifts. Dojun, holding his glass, asked in surprise, gifts. She cheerfully pointed to each bag. This one is for Grandma and Yoon-young, and this one is for you, Dojun. He took his gift bag and opened it right away, to Juyeon's annoyance. You could have opened it at home. Why the rush to do it here? Dojun looked at the elegant clothes in his hands and remarked, this looks expensive. She picked up her glass and calmly explained, consider it a small token of my gratitude for your help. Thanks to you, I was made a knight, you know. Juian continued, compared to the help I received, this gift is nothing. I can even buy you a car if you want. He put the suit away and replied calmly, I'll let you know if I need one. Besides, I got something out of it too. She looked at him seriously and said, if I asked how you knew the Macassians' weakness, I suppose you wouldn't answer, would you? Dojun replied nonchalantly, is there any reason I have to? Hearing that Juyeon could only sigh in resignation. Under the soft yellow lights of the cafe, she asked, what's your plan now? I'm not expecting him to say something like world peace, but if he's planning to target Hong Hiju or Kang Yongpyo, that's going to be a problem. I have to find a way to stop him. He slowly opened his mouth to speak for now. Dojun tilted his head, looking completely serious. I need to buy a house first. She looked bewildered by his statement. Juyeon asked in astonishment, you mean you're renting? Dojun was silent, unsure of what to say. The scene shifts to late at night somewhere. The sound of laughter and playful chatter can be heard. At a luxurious villa, glamorous women were having fun by the swimming pool. Yongpyo was in the pool with his arms around two beautiful women. His expression was dark as he thought Hyunju Yeon, for some reason, she seems different lately. Knowing the Makashin's weakness is one thing, but she's also deliberately hiding how she discovered it, and never mind the Makashin. But what about Dojun Juyeon, who was relaxing, crossed her arms and asked back, "What do you mean?" Yongpyo laid it all out, how she helped pull him out even at the cost of beating up a prosecutor, and how she had even witnessed him use Cheol-woo as target practice. Juyeon took off her eye patch and explained irritably Kang Cheol-woo was the one who started it, and besides, the assassination attempt through the portal failed, didn't it? On the day of the fight, Kang Cheol-woo was also the one who picked the fight first. He let out a scornful laugh. Hey, that greedy bastard Cheol-woo did something stupid for money he deserved to die. But he was my cousin, you know, so to put it simply, I have a perfectly good reason to get my revenge on Dojun. She shot him a cold, warning glare. Yongpyo felt a bit intimidated by Juyeon's stare. She lay down, turning away from him, and said nonchalantly, "Do whatever you want, I don't intend to interfere." He was taken aback by her action, thinking to himself, and here I thought there was something serious going on between those two. Juyeon put her eye patch back on, betraying no emotion, and besides, I have no reason to get involved. Back in the present, Yongpyo poured a drink and thought no reason. I made things perfectly clear. He sipped his drink with a serious expression. There's definitely something off about Dojun. Long Sutton, Shrewsbury, England. This area had become a desolate ruin after the monster attack. The British Hero Association was trying to send as many heroes as possible into the rift to gather mana stones before the second wave began. The bearded man on guard duty lamented, "What a shame if we had the essence of a red flower, and even D-rankers like us could have taken down the Makashin." The man beside him agreed, "Yeah, that's right. If we had stopped the wave from the beginning, this area would have become a lucrative mana stone mine." "Once a wave appears, the rift can no longer be converted," the man continued. "I heard the second time it won't be a Makashin, but something else," the bearded man replied. "Yeah, that's what's so scary, not knowing what will show up. A country was once destroyed because of this." After saying that, the man turned his head to look at the rift. His partner beside him asked, "What is it? Is something wrong?" The man replied, "No, I just feel like someone is coming out." His partner reassured him, "The team that just went in is already out. It's only been 5 hours. The guard reminded him again, "Come on, snap out of it and keep a careful watch. You know, some greedy civilians will try to sneak in for the mana stones." Suddenly, flashes of lightning appeared inside the rift. The guard turned back to look, his face filled with astonishment. His partner beside him looked just as stunned. From within the rift, a powerfully built man with a grim and terrifying presence appeared. He looked down from on high, his pupils emitting a frightening purple light. The two guards were terrified by the man's appearance. He's not a hero. His clothes, the scars, nothing matches Quick Alert headquarters. Before they could send the alert, he stretched out his metallic arm, creating a green circle. The two men looked on in bewilderment as they were lifted into the air by those green circles. The guard, being pulled into the air, cried out in a panic, What is this?" But the man paid him no mind, walking straight past them. Damn it. The angry guard spun around and threw his daggers at the man. The man didn't even flinch, letting a magic circle block the volley of daggers, instantly deflecting them. He muttered a single word, "Pathetic." After speaking, the man suddenly clenched his fist. The two guards screamed in agony as if being crushed by an invisible force. He gently held out his hand. His fingers twitched and purple sparks of lightning appeared. From within the sparks, a phone gradually materialized its screen, displaying the number 19.26%. On the crimson screen, 19.26 was clearly displayed. The man wondered 10 years have passed in this world's time, and it still hasn't even reached 20%. He walked past the two guards, muttering to himself, "Could it have been a failure? And after I went to all the trouble of creating a spatial rift, first I must increase the mana density." One of the two guards weakly spoke up, What are you?" But the man turned and opened his mouth first. As he spoke, he brutally attacked the guard who had just spoken. The man, with a terrifying demonic expression, continued coldly, "I must first purge these weaklings who are like insects." In the opening scene, a place haunted by the appearance of monsters, Paju, South Korea. Beneath the blue sky, Dojun appeared calm, yet his every footstep sent tremors through the hearts of men. Sunlight rested on his shoulders as the wind blew by. No one knew where he came from or where he was going. They only knew his presence silenced everything. Suddenly, a series of strange noises from the surroundings caught his attention. Something was hurtling toward Dojun at a terrifying speed. From the cracked earth, a giant monster emerged, its roar tearing space itself apart. It opened its horrifying mouth wide, ready to crush anyone who dared block its path, but this time the prey before it would not be so easily devoured. A whole swarm of monsters appeared at once, but in the midst of the chaos, only one man stood his ground. Dojun did not retreat, nor did he need to hide, because from this moment forward, the one being hunted would no longer be human. He looked down, his gaze fixed on the deep abyss below, wondering what awaited him there. With a single light touch, the ground trembled, his supreme power distorting the very earth. After a moment, he made a casual guess, 26 of them within a 100-meter radius. Dojun smirked as a ball of fire erupted from his palm, its billowing heat threatening to scorch the very sky. Let's see how many of them survive this. Blazing red light shot through the cracks as immense fiery energy was poured into the deep pit. Dojun calmly put his hands in his pockets, his expression completely unfazed. Immediately after that ground shook, an explosion roared and a blinding light engulfed everything. The power erupted as roaring flames shot toward the heavens, a crimson pillar piercing the clouds, tearing through the atmosphere as if to set the sky ablaze. Right after witnessing that display, a flicker of doubt crossed Dojun's eyes. What in the world was that? For a brief moment, he let out a faint, knowing smile. The story transitions in the heart of a bustling city. A skyscraper looms, a symbol of power and the secrets hidden within. An older man with a calm demeanor took a sip of his coffee. All right, what kind of person is he? The subordinate's sunglasses glinted as he spoke in a grave tone. Indeed, he's a difficult young man to approach. A few others nearby nodded in agreement. He confirmed to me that he is indeed a hero, said Min Hong-ki, the vice president of the Korean Hero Association. Not stopping there, Taiwan probed deeper. Looking at his assistant with curiosity, I heard the hero index measuring device couldn't get a reading on him, correct, Shiangu. Tidying a stack of documents on the table, nodded slightly. Yes, I received no response at all. A middle-aged man in a black suit with a scowl on his face yelled angrily, "What an insolent brat if he's a member of the association." He should give a straight answer. This was Park Sung-cheol, the other vice president of the Korean Hero Association. The atmosphere was tense. The man smiling beside them gestured with his hand. What else? Taiwan urged his assistant again. What else have you found? Shiangu held up 2 pages filled with text and shook his head. Not much, but I do have a little information. And then he began to reveal a terrible secret. Seo Dojun claims it all started with a dark plot by the hero Kang Cheol-woo. Aura flared from his hand as Dojun raised his head defiantly, ready to meet the giant monster's descending strike. His eyes glinted with killing intent. His hand blazed with fire. Dojun clenched his fist, his spiritual power surging as if to incinerate every enemy before him. Shiangu continued. Seo Dojun nearly died in a battle at a spatial gate, and then awakened his powers. The monster's body was completely obliterated, flesh and blood exploding into fragments. An earth-shattering explosion echoed as the aftershock blew dust and bone shards across the sky. After that, he took his revenge on Kang Cheol-woo and then cleared the new rift in Mappo all by himself. The battlefield shook and red flames soared high as Dojun's figure tore through like a storm, sweeping away every obstacle. Shiangu finished reading with a serious expression. Seo Dojun possesses overwhelming power. Taiwan crossed his arms, thinking he's a wild horse, difficult to tame, but a valuable one. The monster's body exploded, gore splattering everywhere. Taiwan still had one concern. He requested hero certification, claiming to have a sponsor who, in the association, is it? Shiangu's face darkened, and he replied in the heavy atmosphere, "It's Hyunju Yeon, the S-rank hero, sir." Taiwan and Sung Cheol were stunned into silence, their eyes wide with disbelief. The flames flared violently as Dojun emerged, a provocative smirk playing on his lips. In the reflection of a gleaming gold card, a cold, indifferent face was clearly visible. Dojun stared stunned at the golden card, the 8th person on South Korea's list of S-rank heroes. The giant monster's corpse lay shattered on the ground, its toxic blood spreading in streaks. Thanks to this, I'm allowed to freely hunt monsters in the rift. Not bad, huh? Taihuang's lips curled into a smirk, a ferocious and crazed smile as if everything was falling perfectly into his calculations. In the silent meeting room after that fit of laughter, he sighed again. He looked at his 2 colleagues across from him with admiration. This kid really has guts. Yes, his actions truly surpass those of an ordinary person. But the atmosphere was suddenly shattered by an anxious shout. Sun Chio slammed his hand on the table and shot to his feet, sweat trickling down his forehead, his harsh voice echoing, "What, he dared to enter a level 2 rift alone without any teammates or a support party? That guy must be insane." Tai Huang's eyes were silent and profound, responding only with a heavy silence. Shiangu frowned slightly, his eyes sharp and cold as if weighing every word before speaking. Sun Chio froze sweat trickling down his forehead and let out a strained, tense laugh. He was flustered. And to end the discussion, he hastily shouted, trying to justify his thoughts, "Chairman, if that SEO Dojun guy comes back alive, let's announce his identity and promote him heavily. He's South Korea's 8th S-rank hero after all." "Vice Chairman." After speaking, Sun Chio frowned and fell silent once more. Shiangu asked doubtfully, his brow furrowed, "But that might not be what he wants. Shouldn't we ask for his opinion first?" His words were immediately met with an irritated rebuttal from Sun Chio. "Hey, Vice Chairman Min, what are you talking about in unstable times like these? If we announce another S-rank hero, the public will feel more secure, won't they?" All eyes in the meeting room turned to the one with the ultimate authority, Tai Huang. "Chairman, what are your thoughts?" A deep, steady voice spoke up. "I have heard both of your opinions clearly." His face was unwavering, his eyes showing firm resolve. "I will meet him in person and see for myself." The scene shifts back to the main character. Dojun unleashed a lightning kick, his body charging straight into the giant monster. The force of the impact shattered the ground, sending the monster's body flying backward with a furious roar. He charged straight into the horde of monsters with their hideous maws wide open. His eyes were calm, his hand opening as if preparing to unleash an attack. Dojun's eyes were incredibly sharp and cold. He raised his hand, gathering powerful energy for a finishing blow that made the monsters tremble. Summoning his firepower, his hand erupted in flames. The swirling fire coalesced into a destructive force ready to descend upon the horde of monsters. The fire exploded violently, slicing clean through the monster's body. Dojun landed hard on the ground, dust and smoke billowing from the aftershock. His arm was still wreathed in flames from the attack, his gaze cold, and his entire being radiated an oppressive aura. A deafening explosion filled the air, leaving a chaotic scene of fire and smoke. The monster's body trembled violently before shattering into pieces. Dojun stood majestically atop the monster's charred corpse embers still flickering around his arm. Against the deep blue sky, his silhouette looked like that of a ruler, imposing and cold. As the flames on his hand slowly died down, he let out a soft sigh. Dojun looked up at the sky and thought to himself, "Just as I expected, the mana consumption is significant. I need to get a weapon soon." A blue and white building, elevated on sturdy cement walls, stood with its sign visible in the Sun Gas and Hero complex. Not far ahead, a warm, brown-colored weapon crafting shop was situated at an angle, neutralizing the cool tones of the complex. Inside the shop, a young burly blacksmith sat at the counter, his eyes glued to his phone screen. The gold-plated door chime, with its pendulum shaped like an inverted sword, jingled, signaling a customer's arrival. The door opened, and there stood Dojun, hands in his pockets, a crude, body-length bag slung over his shoulder. The blacksmith, looking anything but welcoming, spoke robotically, "Name on the reservation." Dojun walked over and placed the heavy bag on the counter. Even so, the young man didn't bother to glance up. Dojun politely stated his request. "I'd like to have a weapon made from this." Without taking his eyes off his phone, he just slightly raised an eyebrow and bluntly refused. "If you don't have a reservation, it's a no-go. Go look for another shop." Facing the blacksmith's complete indifference, Dojun started to lose his patience. His face darkened, his eyes becoming sharp as daggers, and he growled, "I heard most places are too busy to even take new orders. You were the one who answered the phone, weren't you?" Absorbed in his game, he finally glanced at Dojun, clearly annoyed by the interruption. "Damn it, I already said we're fully booked. We don't have any openings. Go somewhere else. All the craftsmen in this area are skilled." Dojun grabbed the blacksmith by the collar and lifted him from his chair, veins bulging on his hand. The young man cried out in shock. "Are you crazy? What do you think you're doing?" Dojun stared at him intently. "Are you the owner?" The young man corrected him in a panic. "I'm the owner's son." Dojun leaned in closer, radiating a chilling aura, and ordered with a glare, "Get your father out here, right now! I came all this way because I heard this place was the best." The young blacksmith reluctantly turned away, shooting a strange look back at him. He called out loudly, "Dad, there's a customer here to see you." An old man emerged, his flip-flops clacking on the floor. Age had not worn down his toned body. He was drenched in sweat. Adjusting the strap of his hat, he asked, "Who sent you?" This was Juan, a craftsman who forged equipment for heroes. Dojun answered succinctly, Hyunju-yeon. Upon hearing that name, the faces of the father and son duo turned pale, a mixture of apprehension and fear. Cheolkwan asked again, "Did Juyeon really send you?" Dojun didn't answer, calmly unzipping his bag instead. He took out 2 long raw materials with a brownish gold sheen and sharp pointed ends. Cheolkwan recognized the items and was stunned once again. He stepped closer and took the 2 items in his hands, stammering as he examined them. "This is—" The young blacksmith also looked on curiously. "Dad, what is that?" The item was longer than 2 handspans. He regained his composure, but his voice still held a hint of surprise at encountering such a rare material. "It's the fang of a giant black serpent. It's been a long time since I've seen one of these." Dojun gave a more detailed request. "Forge me a single sword. It just needs to be serviceable but high quality. As for the length, make it as long as you possibly can." The old man paused for a moment. "Long, you say? You may not realize this, but if you try to stretch a non-metallic material like this, its durability will drop significantly." Dojun crossed his arms and listened, his gaze evaluative. The craftsman then made another suggestion. "I can make 2 medium-sized swords for you." He was stubborn, and when he didn't get his way, he immediately prodded, "So are you saying you lack the ability to do it?" "Join them together and make 1 long sword. I need a long one." "Oh, and if you can increase its mana absorption to the highest possible level." The young blacksmith exploded in anger. Hey, I can't listen to this anymore. What do you mean he lacks ability? Even for ordinary weapons, my father can craft them with a mana absorption of level 3 or higher." Dojun suddenly fell silent. He took an impressive-looking pre-forged sword down from a rack. Dojun held the sword by both ends of the blade. He guessed aloud, "This looks to be around level 5, doesn't it?" With that said, Dojun's sinewy hands gripped the body of the sword with immense force. A miraculous light emanated from his hands, bright enough to illuminate the entire shop, causing the young blacksmith who was standing a counter's length away to take half a step back. The next second, to the dumbfounded amazement of the father and son, he effortlessly crushed the sword as if it were a piece of scrap metal. In the blink of an eye, the sword in his hands was shattered, its fragments flying in all directions. The scattered metal pieces clattered to the floor as the father and son stared in shock at the remains. Dojun dropped the last piece of the sword, his fist still clenched, and threatened in a cold voice, "If you're going to make trash like this, you might as well just announce your retirement right now." The air suddenly grew scorching hot. The young blacksmith was frozen in fear, and while Cheolkwan was fuming, he didn't dare say a word lest one punch send him to his grave. At the edge of a lush, sun-drenched forest by a lake dotted with leaves and flowers, everything seemed peaceful and serene. A giant monster began to stir, baring its fangs and growling as it prepared to wreak havoc. Its single eye, located right in the center of its face, was shut tight. It suddenly snapped open, its blood-red pupil flashing with a chilling light. Its massive body awakened in the heart of nature, hunched over, as each heavy footstep threatened to shake the ground. It tilted its head to the sky and let out a roar that echoed up to the clouds. Just then, Dojun arrived with a calm demeanor, stepping 1 foot into the shallow water. He found the roar incredibly annoying. "Still as noisy as ever I see." With a flick of his wrist, flames erupted at his chest, his eyes already locked onto his target. Dojun shot forward like the wind, dodging the monster's devastating stomp. The monster stared stunned at the strange figure rushing towards it, unable to tell if it was a demon or a human. From above, he angled his body, gathering momentum for his flaming hand. A decisive palm strike tore through the air and plunged deep into its shoulder. The monster opened its maw and let out a powerful roar of agony. It frantically ripped a tree trunk from the ground to use as a weapon, bulging veins crisscrossing its arm. Before the tree could even be used, Dojun flew in nimbly and sliced it apart, its top and bottom sections lying uprooted on the ground. After dealing with the monster's weapon, his sharp, cold eyes turned to the main target, glinting fiercely. It had virtually no advantage. His movements were so agile that the monster could only react with stunned horror. Without wasting a second, Dojun swung and slashed its other shoulder, circling behind it with his magical weapon brimming with flames. And yet the fight wasn't over. The monster had a healing ability. A healing spell emitting a green glow gradually mended its torn flesh and skin. Its muscular body fully recovered, and it stubbornly bared its fangs and glared once more. Unfortunately for it, Dojun didn't hesitate, launching himself forward from behind it once again. With just a light touch, a searing stream of fire transferred from his hand to the monster's flesh. The considerable power behind the attack turned its flesh pitch black as if it had been roasted. The monster took the full force of that fiery strike, letting out a roar with all its might. That decisive blow sent its head flying from its neck. He had harnessed the power of the wind to create a powerful slash, bringing the fight to a dramatic conclusion. The defeated monster collapsed with an earth-shattering thud. Dojun stood up, looking at the smoldering flames on his weapon as sweat beaded on his brow, and thought to himself, as expected, maintaining a magic sword for so long is exhausting. He bent down, took off his shoulder bag, and pulled out a glass mug with a handle. Dojun opened the lid, pressed the mug against the body of the monster he'd just slain to scoop up some blood, and silently praised himself. Well, it's because of this that I was able to take down a cyclops. It was late at night when Dojun returned, but the lights inside the weapon shop were still on. He pushed the mug of blood toward the young blacksmith. The young blacksmith asked in bewilderment, "What is this?" Dojun replied nonchalantly, "Give it to your father. This will make it easier to fuse the two fangs of the black serpent together." Looking at the crimson liquid, the uneasy young blacksmith repeatedly called after Dojun's retreating figure, What is that? Hey, you have to tell me." The skyscrapers glowed under the streetlights as Dojun finally left the shop. He stopped on the sidewalk unconsciously, tightening his bag strap, and thought to himself, "I've prepared all the basic materials, but to increase mana absorption, I need that. To find it, there is only one place on Earth, Brazil, a 12-hour flight away. In a resort surrounded by cooling swimming pools, the early morning air was both relaxing and lively. The phone on the edge of the pool buzzed with an incoming call, the screen displaying the name Seo Dojun. Juian, who was soaking in the pool, came over and picked it up. The words from the other end of the line were so shocking they took her completely by surprise. Juian had to push her sunglasses up onto her forehead and ask again, Brazil. In the pool, everyone was playing together in the water. By the poolside, Juian and Hiju were stretched out on lounge chairs enjoying their day off. Julian's cold eyes observed from behind her glasses as she spoke. "So the council decided to send heroes to Brazil?" Sipping her drink, Hiju replied. "Yeah, I heard both the Brazilian government and the council gave in. Now they're planning to completely seal off the entire rift area." Hiju, whose low-cut black bikini revealed her voluptuous, sexy chest, gently removed her glasses, tilted her head, and smiled. "Even though the monsters there are much more aggressive, we can mine a fair amount of mana stones in return. The pay from the association is good too, so our guild decided to participate. You should go too, and take him with you." Juian probed. "He's the 8th level 5 who's been making waves lately, right?" Hiju replied. "I'm not really sure." Not satisfied. Juian raised her voice. "What do you mean you're not sure? Rumor has it you two are very close." Hiju quickly denied it. "What, that's not true at all." "Oh my, how cute! I saw you two with my own eyes hunting a Cacerion together," Juian teased. Inju's face flushed red as she stammered, "Well, that was—" All right, you've said enough, I'll go." Juian relented. Hiju excitedly stretched out her arms, cooing sweetly. "Yeah, thank you so much." Suddenly, Juian cut her off, stammering, "But I'm not even sure if he'll come with me." Elsewhere, beads of sweat streamed down Choquan's tense face, his voice filled with fear. "But wait, how did you even find this stuff?" "It's so perfectly fused. It doesn't look like metal yet, it's forged as a single piece. Who would have thought cyclops blood could be used like this?" Dojun stood watching with his arms crossed, a smug smirk playing on his lips. Holding the wooden beam, Choquan reluctantly agreed. "All right, I'll take the order. It can be extended to a maximum of 180 centimeters. Dojun instructed, "Craft it as a two-handed sword, but design the hilt so it can be wielded with one hand. About 5 kilograms should be right." Choquan's face twisted under his cap. "What's this suddenly speaking so respectfully? I thought he was the arrogant type, but it seems he knows some manners after all. Or perhaps this weapon is just that important to him." The shop owner examined the rough, heavy beam in his hand and said, "But 5 kilograms is a bit heavy to swing with one hand, you know. It's not like you'll only swing it a couple of times." "It's fine, just make it like that," Dojun said. "How long will it take?" Choquan answered. "At least a month. The mana absorption rate could reach level 7. Level 7, huh, he thought. I wonder if it can handle my full power. Just as I expected. I'll have to use it. For now, just forge its shape, Dojun told Choi Cheol-guan. As for raising the mana absorption rate, wait until I bring you the materials. Cheol-guan's pupils constricted in alarm. Could it be? Is he planning to get That material? A few days later, in front of a parking area sign, a luxury car was parked in the area. He stood beside the car, his face full of gratitude. Thanks, I'll put it to good use. Juian smiled in reply. It's nothing, but do I look that short on cash? You only dared to ask for something worth 1,000,000,000 won? Dojun replied with a smile. This is perfectly reasonable. That left her a bit speechless. Dion just stood there stunned. Juian watched him inspect the car, her curiosity piqued. What's going on with the Hero Association? Dojun replied, they're planning to reveal my identity, so I demanded a fair price. She was stunned. A price, but Chairman Nataiwang always puts the greater good first. So it seems, but the negotiations failed, he said. She shouted in frustration. Can't you just try to live properly for once? I'm your sponsor. Please have some consideration for me. His only response was the cold slam of the car door. Dayon stepped forward, opened the door, and got into the passenger seat. Fastening her seatbelt, she tilted her head and said softly, the association is swamped with deploying forces to the rift in Brazil. Once things calm down, I'll arrange for you to speak with the chairman again. Dojun sounded surprised. Brazil? Dayon's arm gently brushed against his. That's right. They said they're going to completely seal off a part of the area. The space between them closed, creating an intimate, suggestive atmosphere. Dojun looked into Dayon's eyes and asked, Are you going too? Her face flushed red with embarrassment, and sweat trickled down her cheeks, making her feel tense and flustered. She turned to him and answered, Of course I am. Why do you ask? With his handsome face and captivating voice, Dojun said, Because I want to go with you. His words made Dayon's heart race and a shy blush crept onto her cheeks. Elsewhere, Hiju's face was trembling with fear. She asked Yongpyo, What you're demanding more money? The corner of his mouth curled up. This is no time to be stingy, Director Hong. She shouted in anger. I already gave you a 30 billion won advance and you still want more money. When are you going to get to work? I should have just hired someone else. Yongpyo simply replied, And who else would take this order? She sneered, The world is full of people who would kill without batting an eye for money. He smirked and sighed his eyes, mocking Hiju. But Director, you really are lacking information. How about I give you an update free of charge? Seo Dojun. He's an S rank, the 8th S rank hero of South Korea. Hiju's face contorted, sweat beading on her cheeks as she screamed, That bastard is an S rank, are you messing with me? He just chuckled. Oh, you don't believe me. I had to pay a hefty price for that information. If you don't believe me, feel free to just wait for him to come and kill you. He slowly walked toward the door when her voice called out, Wait, what is Seo Dojun really an S rank? If that's true, then I can't control him. I'll give you more money, so you must get rid of him. A sinister smile spread across Yongpyo's face. It's not just about the money. It would be even better if we became close business partners from now on. Hiju seemed to lose all control at this information, screaming, I'll give you anything just as long as he's dead. Suddenly, Yongpyo's phone buzzed. Hiju felt a wave of anxiety. He pursed his lips silently, reading the message on his screen. Yongpyo spoke up, It seems fate is on your side, Director Hong. Hiju asked blankly, What do you mean? The corner of his mouth lifted into a smirk as he held his phone out to her. A golden opportunity to deal with Seo Dojun has just appeared. In the business class cabin, Dion sat with perfect, elegant composure amidst a flurry of excited netizen comments and headlines. Hero Association's most elite team, a force of 5 level 5s under the association dispatched to Brazil. The largest overseas deployment in history, Kang Young-pyo and even Ha-yeol are joining. The Brazil campaign officially enters a new phase. Jang Seong-ho sat calmly with his arms crossed, the picture of arrogance. Asterisk, asterisk, Choi Gang Sung-ho, asterisk, asterisk. Her Jang Seong-ho is going to Brazil too. Asterisk, asterisk, Busan sidekick, asterisk, asterisk. He single-handedly carried his entire group to the #1 spot. Asterisk, asterisk, Dalbit Guardian, asterisk, asterisk. They sniff out money like bloodhounds. Brazil must be paying a fortune. Nearby, the muscular Hae-yeol was lifting weights in the cabin. Asterisk, asterisk, Kim, asterisk, asterisk, Park Hae-yeol is definitely just in it for the money. Asterisk, asterisk, Gyeogi Hero 93, asterisk, asterisk. His guild has practically fallen apart, so he must be desperate for cash. With her delicate features, Dion glanced around, observing her surroundings, oblivious to the praise being lavished online. Asterisk, asterisk, Hero Hayo 77, asterisk, asterisk is Hyunju Yeon. Going too, she's already the nation's hero, she could have taken a break. Asterisk, asterisk, no one, Gangnam Shield, asterisk, asterisk, you idiot. You have to strike while the iron is hot, asterisk, asterisk, Seoul, you Changdan, asterisk, asterisk, OMG, Hyunju. Yeon is unbelievably sexy. Young Pyo, with his arms crossed casually, glanced around. Asterisk, asterisk, bing, bing, fist, asterisk, asterisk, even Kang Young Pyo is going Brazil must be sparing no expense. Asterisk, asterisk, Ujongbu Nimda, asterisk, asterisk. I heard there's no tax on the mana stones, they all belong to the hero. Asterisk, asterisk, Guillaume Power 99, asterisk, asterisk. Is that rumor for real? Just one mid-grade stone would be life-changing. Young Pyo turned in disbelief to look at Dojun, who was loudly slurping instant noodles. The comment section was still buzzing. Asterisk, asterisk, Gimbop, Captain, asterisk, asterisk. But who is this Seo Dojun guy? The social media storm grew more curious. Asterisk, asterisk, Sixin Superos, asterisk, asterisk. He's a rookie. This Brazil mission is probably his official debut. Asterisk, asterisk, Daihakro Gazer, asterisk, asterisk. He's so young they probably made him go for the experience. I'm really curious about his actual skills. Asterisk, asterisk, so gang, speedy, asterisk, asterisk. Well, if he's a level 5, he must be something special. As the plane soared through the sky, each person was lost in their own thoughts. Jang Seong-ho's expression was composed. Hae-yeol's sharp eyes glinted. Juian kept a serious expression on her face. Young Pyo, meanwhile, was staring at Dojun with wide, baffled eyes. Under the hood of his black cloak, Dojun was chewing his food with puffed-out cheeks. The plane began its descent into Brazil. Amidst a bustling cityscape of towering skyscrapers, Sao Paulo, Brazil. The camera pans to a modern headquarters, a flag waving in the wind where the heroes had gathered the Brazilian Hero Association. Just then, breaking news was announced during an emergency meeting. A man reported, "The South Korean Expeditionary Force has just landed at the airport." Another person responded enthusiastically, "That's wonderful news. Of all the nations summoned, they were the first to arrive." An official frowned, taking notes while remarking in the heavy atmosphere, "A few heroes didn't return to their quarters and immediately set out to act. Our country is certainly quick to act, isn't it?" He stammered, but the official tilted his head, his eyes showing a mix of surprise and gravity. "I'm worried the South Korean side will discover that information." Another veteran leader crossed his arms and leaned back in his chair, his gaze deep and cold. "No secret in this world lasts forever, so we must keep them under tight control until this mission is over." The others nodded, understood. He sighed softly, clenching his fist as if trying to gather what little composure he had left. The atmosphere grew even gloomier as the final report was read aloud. "Brazil's national treasure-class hero Moraes has been defeated and killed by an unidentified entity." Amidst the tense atmosphere in the meeting room, the conversation suddenly took a different turn. It wasn't a monster. The black box data clearly shows a human form. The other man still looked puzzled, musing. What in the world happened at the rift near Santarem? In a large conference room, a stern man in a suit was giving a presentation holding documents and pointing at a glowing map. Down in the audience, Juian stared at her phone, frowning slightly as she quickly sent a message. "Where are you? The meeting has already started." Dojun replied nonchalantly. "On a plane," she repeated doubtfully. "A plane we just landed at the same time." "I transferred flights. The destination is still far away." "Where do you mean?" He just texted back one word, Santarem. Juyan's eyes widened in stunned disbelief. "Santarem, he's going into the most dangerous rift zone alone." The man in the suit continued his presentation, pointing to the red-marked areas on the map. "After 2 days of local familiarization, the heroes will be assigned to their registered zones in order." The entire hall listened in tense silence. The scene shifts to the outside of a luxurious hotel named Bomb Hotel, where flags fluttered in the wind under the bright sun. Juian, pulling a suitcase behind her, opened the door and got into a yellow taxi ready to leave. Just as she was about to get in, a hand suddenly stopped the door. She looked up, her eyes wary. A teammate suddenly stopped her. Young Pyo held the car door looking at her with suspicion. "Where are you going? The schedule hasn't even started yet." Juyeon's eyes were half-lidded, her expression calm and unbothered. "I have somewhere I need to be." Young Pyo asked curiously, "So where would that be?" Faced with her teammate's questioning, Juian replied in a low, cold voice, "Santarem." The taxi sped away in a flash of light. Young Pyo remained standing there, calm as if he had expected this. His eyes narrowed at the mention of the name, a land shrouded in countless rumors and unspeakable secrets. "Santarem, huh? The place that even the Brazilian Association has forbidden entry to. The scene changes to a desolate land with sheer, arid cliffs that looked as if they were gnawed by time. Gaunt, bare trees reached up like ghostly sentinels. This was the rift zone near Santarem. Dojun and Juian's team advanced silently into Santarem. No one spoke, only the sound of their hurried footsteps on the barren ground could be heard, and every person's eyes glinted with vigilance. The group walked in silence, their footsteps echoing across the desolate land. Suddenly, Juian's sharp, cold voice cut through the tense atmosphere. "Now that we're here, you could at least tell us why you were in such a rush." Dojun replied nonchalantly with a hint of reproach. "I was waiting. Weren't you the one who arrived late?" Juian shouted angrily. "That's not it. If you had given me a heads up, Mr. Seo Dojun, you wouldn't have had to wait." She narrowed her eyes probingly. "Fine, whatever. So what are you really after coming all the way out here?" Dojun answered decisively without a moment's hesitation, "Blue Croco." Juian couldn't hide her surprise and shouted, "Blue Croco, just for that!" Dojun glanced at her, his expression unchanging. "Do I need any other reason?" She tilted her head, her tone tinged with sarcasm. "Mr. Seo Dojun, are you aware that I'm 3 years older than you?" Dojun nonchalantly shook his head. "So what?" Juian fumed, attacking him with her words, their argument echoing through the forest. "It's not about so what. You should show some respect for your elders." Inju's half-scornful, half-indifferent gaze swept over them. Dojun shouted back, annoyed. "I am speaking to you formally, so just speak casually if you want." The warrior's journey into the dangerous, death-haunted land continued. A voice echoed through the mountains. "You want me to feel awkward? Then just keep using formal speech." "No, not that. My God, he's really leading Juian around like that." The argument was cut short by the tense situation. A young man glanced around at the trembling rift and asked worriedly, "Hey, is it really okay for us to just charge straight into the rift zone like this?" Another person immediately burst out laughing. "We have the hero Juian here with us. What's there to worry about?" As tension spread through the rift zone, a doubtful voice piped up, "I know she's strong, but the one leading the way is that rookie." A laugh immediately erupted. Xiongqiu, as if he couldn't believe his ears, said, "A rookie." He turned to the two gossips and smirked, his voice full of meaning. "There are rookies, and then there are rookies. If we're talking about Seo Dojun, he's a legendary class rookie." The two young men turned pale. He's really on that level. The incessant chatter made Juian grimace in annoyance. She looked at Dojun. "Hey, did you hear that?" Dojun immediately spun his sword into a defensive stance and stared forward, snapping, "It's too noisy." Juian fixed a stern gaze on Dojun. "Mr. Seo Dojun, don't tell me you came all this way intending to seal this entire rift zone." However, Dojun nonchalantly gave a surprising reason. "I'm here to gather an ingredient. Why would I seal the place?" Juian stared blankly for a moment. An ingredient. Suddenly, the entire mountain shook violently. From a thick cloud of dust, a monstrous arm with long, razor-sharp claws swung down, creating a chilling, murderous intent as it cut through the air. A deafening explosion shook the area. A brilliant light flashed as the attack slammed into a barrier, and the soldier gritted his teeth, his body trembling under the immense pressure. Immediately after, the ground trembled. Xiongqiu snapped his head around his eyes, wide in shock. He clearly felt the tremor spreading through the area and shouted a warning to the group. "Snap out of it! Get into your defensive positions!" Xiongqiu gritted his teeth, his bloodshot eyes flashing with rage and tension. His breath came in ragged gasps, and only a choked sound could escape his dry throat. A roar erupted as a colossal figure emerged from the mist. It spread its dark wings, its glowing yellow eyes piercing like blades. Black energy swirled around the dragon's body, emitting a pressure that made the ground tremble. This was no ordinary monster, but a true dragon from the abyss. Xiongqiu's jaw dropped. Compared to the photos, this thing is a true monster. Faced with the monster's terrifying power, a team member cried out in panic, "Wait a second, isn't this getting a little too dangerous?" Immediately, Seo Dojun stepped forward, his resolute voice echoing, "Get out of the way." Dojun's hand tightened on the hilt of his sword veins, bulging from the pressure. The cold steel flashed and the blade vibrated with a low hum as if responding to its master. Amidst a blinding light, Dojun stood as silent as an unsheathed blade, waiting for the moment to cut down the world. He recalled his master's words, "If you want to take the Blue Croco's heart, you can't do it barehanded. I will lend you my most treasured sword. Use it to retrieve the ingredient." Without another word, he raised his sword, his cold gaze locked on the enemy. The flash of the steel blade marked the true beginning of the battle. A single slash seemed to tear the world apart, its sound booming like thunder and sweeping away everything in sight. Dojun braced himself and threw a punch, his eyes erupting with killing intent. Blood and afterimages flew, for that punch contained more than the strength of a single person. The giant dragon roared its scales, glowing brilliantly, but it was bombarded by a relentless barrage of attacks from all sides. Light dust and shock waves intertwined, threatening to grind it into dust. The evil dragon spread its wings, its gaze cold and menacing. An intense aura erupted from its body as if exploding from within. Its aura surged violently outwards, causing the surrounding earth and rock to explode. Space itself trembled as if the entire battlefield now revolved around the beast. Xiongqiu laughed in excitement. So it's really doing it? The moment the weapon flashed in his hand, the two observers stood frozen, their eyes wide with terror and amazement. They couldn't believe such power had come from a human. What was that? And as the blade came down, making the very ground tremble, the group exclaimed in shock, "That's an absurd level of power." Dojun stood with his back turned, his sword still dripping with blood. Behind him lay the monster's massive, mangled hand. Flames flickered in the dark forest. Dojun set his weapon down beside him, sitting alone by a campfire. As they stared into the blazing fire, the ensuing whispers were clearly audible. "Did you see that earlier Mr. Seo Dojun took down the blue crocodile in just one hit? He cut down so many by himself. I lost count. He's incredible." Turning their backs to him, the purple-haired guy in the group began to whisper while covering his mouth. "Hey, keep it down. Rumor has it he took down a Cacerion just like that." The other guy hearing this couldn't hide his shock and exclaimed he even took care of that giant bird monster too. Meanwhile, Dojun calmly stared at the fire, ignoring the chatter behind him. He was clearly not your average hero. In his line of sight was a pan with 2 pieces of green meat slowly cooking over the fire. He suddenly turned his head, looking at Daon, who was slowly approaching, and asked, "Are the blue crocodile hearts done being processed?" She immediately looked at where he was pointing towards the barrels behind them. He replied nonchalantly, "Take a look and you'll see." As Daon looked behind her, her mind was filled with questions. What on earth are those hearts for anyway? By the way, what is that meat you're grilling? It doesn't really look like beef. His casual reply struck Daon like a lightning bolt, making her eyes widen in horror. "It's blue crocodile meat. It's actually pretty good. Want to try some?" Daon quickly covered her mouth and recoiled from the meat in fear. "We prepared plenty of food. Why would we go through the trouble of eating this?" Dojun ignored her, putting a piece of meat into his mouth and saying, "Suit yourself." Meanwhile, she watched from behind with a look of surprise as he calmly chewed away. Just then, Hiju saw it and froze in disbelief, staring at the half-eaten piece of meat. Her face fell as she asked in horror, "Is that really edible? We still have plenty of food, but you chose to eat that." Immediately, a pair of slender hands holding chopsticks slowly picked a piece of meat from the hot pan. Catching her silently looking at the piece of meat she had just picked up, Hiju suddenly shouted, "Juian, you're really going to eat that?" Daon turned to the frantic Hiju, who had shot to her feet and retorted, "But I heard it's edible." To Inju's astonishment, she quickly opened her mouth wide, about to eat the meat. Daon took the seemingly poisonous green meat into her mouth. A moment later, Daon covered her mouth in amazement, thinking to herself, this is actually pretty tasty." Hiju immediately walked closer to the two of them. She quickly leaned close to him and whispered, making the chewing Dojun suspicious, "Mr. Seo Dojun, what's your secret? How did you manage to win Juian over? She's never had a boyfriend before, and she's not the type to easily fall for a guy. Tell me, how did you even get her to eat that monster meat?" After hearing her, he looked down, his face expressionless. "A secret to love, huh? It must have been back at the Imperial Academy. I wasn't even 20 then." The image of a young man known as the Sword God staring intently at the beautiful girl before him gradually came into focus. Lady Maisel Grain, daughter of Count Grain. A moment later, he was hand in hand with the beautiful white-haired woman. Then, when I was over 20, there was the noble Lady Leslian Luenda Leslian. And it ended with the strong figure of a woman standing bravely before giant monsters. And also my final refuge in a ruined world, Veronia. Hiju suddenly yelled right in his ear, pulling him from his reverie. "Hey, didn't you hear me? I asked for your secret to love?" Dojun quickly turned his head to look at her, standing opposite him with her hands on her hips. Then in a flash, he put on an enthusiastic expression and replied, "Honey doesn't seek out the bees." The person on the other end was completely stunned after hearing that. A moment later, her jaw dropped, unable to believe what she was hearing. Oh my God, that is the corniest line I've ever heard in my entire life. Hiju immediately rushed over and slapped Daeon hard on the back, causing her to drop her chopsticks and choke violently. Scene changed to a modern city filled with skyscrapers, Sao Paulo, Brazil. Inside a luxurious room, Pio's assistant approached to report that is all the information, sir. Pio swirled the wine glass in his hand, his tone nonchalant. I just don't get it. The campaign hasn't even started, so why are they in such a rush to leave? And on top of that, Seo Dojun Jong Inju and Jong Inju's Carnation Guild are participating as well. There aren't any valuable monsters in the Santarem region. As far as I know, there's nothing special there. The other man quickly replied when we asked the Brazilian side, they only gave us one answer. That it's extremely dangerous there. Just then, the phone rang. When it comes to that bastard Seo Dojun, everything is always unpredictable, honestly. Director Hong, to what do I owe the pleasure? The person on the other end immediately shot back, is that bastard Seo Dojun still alive? When is he finally going to get to work? He chuckled and asked back, what's got you so worked up now? Did something happen? The person on the other end replied instantly, my father. He must have seen the news that Dojun is ranked 5th, so he's telling me to bring him back home. Pio shot up his voice, teasing. So even the chairman of T Group has to get involved personally. That explains why our dear director is so anxious now. The person on the other end shouted impatiently, stop joking around, what's the plan? Pio walked over to a map on the wall. I've finally found a good partner, I have to know how to please them. Seo Dojun will definitely not be returning from Brazil. The other person replied, their tone full of satisfaction. I like that answer. He pointed to a spot on the map with a pen and responded, if you understand, then hang up Director Hong Hiju. Contact the Takashi side. The assistant quickly replied, yes, sir. Meanwhile, a name circled in red appeared on the map. Now that Seo Dojun has wandered into the wilderness on his own, it's much easier to make a move. Back in the forest, Dojun was leading the group straight ahead. Dion stared at the map. Are we heading into the jungle? I heard there's a dangerous monster in there. He asked in return, what monster? She quickly thought of a fearsome creature, the lynx. Dojun calmly looked up at the sky. A lynx, huh? So that thing is here too, Dion asked back. You know about the lynx? He replied, of course I do. Dojun strode forward. Dion watched his back grow distant from the group in exasperation. I knew it would be like this. I won't stop you, but wear this. Dojun looked at the object in his palm. What is this? Ignoring him, Daeon quickly walked over and began to explain their earplugs. If you get mesmerized by the lynx's howl, your mind will be paralyzed. You just said you knew about it. His answer left her bewildered. I don't need them. Then he turned and walked away, leaving a frantic Daeon to shout after him, you shouldn't underestimate the lynx. The Brazilian Hero Association warned everyone to be extremely cautious of it. Hey! Night gradually fell over the silent forest. Dojun was still the one leading the way. A furry creature silently watched their every step. Under the full moon, its body gradually came into view. Everyone's eyes were filled with fear as they looked at it. A piercing sound quickly rang out, causing Inju and the others to cover their ears in panic. It's the lynx. Everyone cover your ears now. Meanwhile, Dojun calmly looked at the monster with sharp eyes. He watched the monster as it howled under the moonlight.